they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. The Bucs will need a couple of weeks to get where they need to be. Dallas, as a complete team, I think they will be just fine.
What?
By
22 years, you're doubting Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr. What?
I am.
What?
Well, that prediction went wrong, didn't it, John?
How about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys? You need to call the sheriff department, the FBI, because clearly that offensive line was missing.
Oh, that's all I thought about on the way back from LA yesterday after the Sunday night game. I was thinking, man, John is going to ridicule me, and I got that wrong, and Dak Prescott got hurt, but we'll get into that more. Okay, so welcome to the second episode of Punt Off on the ISA Network here, the Intergalactic Sports and Entertainment Network. It is Monday, can't trust that day. As you could probably tell, we both have lost our voices from Saturday college football, Sunday football. First of all, John, how'd your weekend go with, football, family, whatever the case was?
17 penalties and you lose at home? Seriously, we finally have a quarterback at UT. Can we have nice things? 20 years since we got a top recruiting Vince Young. And no, he gets hurt. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll adjust the offense. We got B.J. Robinson. Our defense, outside of parts of the fourth quarter, was one of my biggest issues in years past, where you're not covering the pass, you're not covering downfield, you're not getting to the quarterback. You made Bryce Young look like he didn't win the Heisman Trophy last year. Then all of a sudden, yes, Carson Carter was a little bit injured too. It's just like, dude, 17 penalties. You deserve to lose that game. But going to the NFL part, oh my gosh, dude. Nearly, potentially 7 picks? You made Nathan Peterman look like an all-pro quarterback, Joe Burrow. What is that? And this is what I go back to Mike Brown for. This has been the issue with the Bengals for 20-plus years, why guys like Carson Palmer and so many others had issues. That this is why I say offensive lineman is the most important position in the NFL. Because you can have your quarterbacks, your tight ends, running backs, fullbacks, receivers, tight ends. If you can't protect your quarterback, nothing matters. You literally have 4 picks before the end of the first half. Your defense was doing whatever. Mixon wasn't getting it done. Chase, I think, had a little over 100 yards in this game, so I'll give him that. But it's like, dude, this is what I tell you. Joe Burrow, this is why I said sooner or later, and this is just week 1, so we're not going to overreact or say you have one job. But sooner or later, that playoffs was going to catch up in terms of you're getting sacked. Not 3, not 4, maybe 4 to 5 times per playoff game last year. And that's going to catch up to you. And we're seeing this early on, but also some other things in the AFC North. But, man, it was the worst weekend of football I have had as a fan. And this is why I sound like Batman, because Longhorns couldn't stop anything. They couldn't stop a cold if they caught it. I couldn't cover the quarterback if he was right there in front of them. Bengals looked like crap. Joe Burrow looked like this out, and he nearly came back and won. And this is what I also said, my last point for my football. McPherson, you were in the playoffs like, hey, I got it, G. Wild card, divisional, AFC Championship game. Not a problem. But all of a sudden, in a meaningless week 1 game, you're like, no, I'm just going to miss it. And how do you miss that? We're not talking about the block field. You miss it? How? All week last week, kickers couldn't. The one kicker that made it, I forget what the field goal, we'll talk about it. It's not the team you would think it would be, because they're not known for being clutch. They're known for sacrificing no moral for a quarterback. He's not playing right now. But, man, it was just so tough because, like, and this is why I love football, I love sports. I'm sick of them with my teams regardless, but the worst weekend of football I have ever had in my lifetime.
Well, behind me, you can see the USC schedule. They defeated Stanford. They kind of let the foot off the gas in the second half. Made it a game late in the fourth. Did the Cardinal, but they held on. Somehow USC is ranked 7. They play Fresno State. The Raider game we'll get into, and all the festivities that I partaked in. Let's just say, a lot of fun. But the team didn't win. Anyway, let's recap week 1 here. Thursday night, the world champion LA Rams hosted the Buffalo Bills. And we were, chatting during the game for sure. Tied at 17, and then the wheels came off for the Rams. Matthew Stafford, the doubts about his elbow came into fruition. He had 3 interceptions. He did throw for 1 touchdown and 240 yards, but really nothing on the ground. Cooper Kupp did his thing, 13 receptions, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. But this game, though, I know it was all about Stafford, but you give credit to Josh Allen. He did throw 2 picks, but he did throw 3 touchdowns, 297 yards. He also ran for a touchdown. Stephon Diggs had his way with Jalen Ramsey and whomever else in the Rams secondary. That one terrible play by Ramsey, just letting Diggs go by and we were talking about it, we either thought, there was safety help, or Ramsey just got totally lost. He thought maybe Diggs was going to run it in or out, but no, he ran a streak way down the field for a touchdown. Gabriel Davis also had a touchdown. Isaiah McKenzie. The Bills showed why they're Super Bowl favorites. The Rams showed why they are slated to be, Super Bowl hangovers. What did you think about the opener Thursday night?
This is the thing, and what we see with certain teams, whether it's a Super Bowl or not, is over-reliance. The Rams were over-reliant on Cooper Kupp. You had Allen Robinson. You could give him 10, 13 throws, and let's see what happened from there. You had some running backs. Again, I think Sean McVay was calling out Cam Akers. He wants to see more out of him because you didn't play him much. Like I want to see more out of my player, but you're not going to play him a lot. But I think, like you said, that elbow is such a big deal because when a quarterback is throwing that motion, you see that elbow move, and if that's not fully 100%, your quarterback's just going. It's going all over the place, and I'm not making excuses for him. But like you say, he didn't do a lot of training camp. As we're seeing in the league right now, a lack of tackling, a lack of practice and training camp and reps in their preseason clearly has affected a lot of teams in the National Football League. But Bills, I've said this since, thought about it since 2018, I think, when he got drafted, is that Josh Allen is a dog. This guy, even if he didn't show in the numbers in 2018, I think it's 2018, they were playing the Vikings, early on in the season, 2018 or 2019, where this guy just ran the ball with himself, dove over the guy, took the hit. This guy's physical. He can run the football. He can take it. And when you talk about Bills quarterbacks outside of Josh Allen, who's a potential Super Bowl MVP, I say potential because it's week 1 of the season, you look at guys like E.J. Manuel, those guys, they're not willing to take the risks. They couldn't throw the ball down the field. He can throw it deep. I don't know what Jalen Ramsey was thinking. Was he thinking, like I said, getting safety help? Was he thinking Diggs was going to run an end route? Because that's kind of what you saw a lot last year. Or maybe he just misread the play, and that's fine. But he's also the same guy who said in 2018 that drafting Josh Allen was not a good fit. And but he ran his mouth, and I have no problem with the player running the mouth if he can 100% guarantee back it up. And most of the time he can't. So we're talking about him as a player, but for the Bills, though, this is really good because I think what I said before the season, or at some point, some of us off the show, is that what we saw in McKenzie, what we saw in Gabriel Davis during the playoffs, early on in this season, they're going to get a lot of targets because you know what they're about. You don't need a Cole Beasley. Yes, you pay. You have your tight end there. I believe he got paid, but man, there's a lot of very tough times recently, though. So shout out to the Bills for what they're doing to help them out. But it's just like, dude, defense, offense, they're the most complete team, I feel like, outside of the Chiefs in the AFC. And it's not just having the most sexiest players or this or that. It's not this that you destroy the Rams. You destroyed them in their home stadium where they played the Super Bowl. Folks, you got to think about it. It was 10-10 in the first half. And it just shows, like, we saw this, like, this is why my voice is so low. Like, Jay saw this, and I was like, are you? I'm not going to scream, but, like, oh, my God. Like, this is insane. Like, Stafford looked like Jared Goff with the Rams. He saw that meme. Jared Ramsey got basically he's toast because he got that burnt toast photo. I didn't get blocked by him on Twitter, so that was a bummer. But it was kind of surprising, though. I didn't expect it to be a blowout. I thought it would be a lot closer. But I think it shows with those minor injuries can lead to significant things. And I think if you're expecting a lot from K-Makers, you can't just be going on Cooper Kupp most of the time because, as you know, from college to the NFL, defenses adjust real quick. So if I have Cooper Kupp right here, I got my linebacker. He goes in, out route, straight, doesn't matter. They're going to stop him because they're going to double cover or triple coverage him. So they're going to have to target Allen Robinson a lot more moving forward. But, I mean, congrats to Buffalo here because clearly the AFC East is not just potentially just Buffalo's division maybe this year.
Yeah, that was really surprising with Allen Robinson. Just, the number of targets he had, just one catch. That was awkward. So Sunday came. We remember 9/11. It was 21 years ago that day, yesterday, and there was ceremonies before the game. I know in LA with the Chargers, they had a survivor out there, waving a flag and introduced and honored. So, again, the worst day probably in America history. So lucky, for all of us to have the freedom we have definitely in this country. And with that, football came. New Orleans and the Falcons, Atlanta's home opener. Atlanta led. And then the fourth quarter came, and New Orleans scored 17, ended up winning 27-26. Really, really good back and forth game, especially in the fourth. Jameis Winston had 2 touchdowns passing. Taysom Hill had a touchdown running. Jarvis Landry, and it was great to see him. 7 receptions with 114 yards. Michael Thomas, though, had the 2 touchdowns. He only had 5 receptions for 57 yards, but the 2 touchdowns. For the Falcons, blowing this game in their way that they know how. Marcus Mariota, just 215 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. Cordell Patterson, who you got to love on fantasy. He had 22 carries, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. Mariota did also have a touchdown rushing. Really nothing in the air, and you're going to expect that with Mariota. Kyle Pitts only 2 receptions for 19 yards. John, this is another case where Atlanta, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter the sport, except the Braves last year in MLB, they just know how to blow leads in the city of Atlanta. What did you think about the Saints comeback and win here?
You can take Matt Ryan out of Atlanta, but you can't take the Matt Ryan out of Atlanta. And this is the case here. It's just like, dude, 17 unanswered points in the first 2 to 3 quarters. Sorry. Jameis Winston only had 67 passing yards, 52 yards. And he came back and was like, boom, I can prove that I can be a potential starter. I can be a starter in this league. Yes, it's just week 1. We got 17 weeks left of football to happen. But it just shows, man, this guy can't play ball. This guy can still throw the ball down the field without having ESPN special. But, man, Atlanta, how do you keep blowing leads? You blew a 17-point lead. My cousin was joking yesterday because I was at their place watching the games. He's like, oh, the Saints, they have a chance to come back. And what do? They come back 27-26. I think it just shows that they're rebuilding in Atlanta, and they have been for a while because even that Super Bowl team, their running backs this year was the season before they went to the Super Bowl. So I think now it's like their defense has been in shambles for so many years, and they've been denying the fact on that. You have your new head coach. Are you going to have Desmond Ridder be your guy in a couple of weeks? Or are you going to do what the Vikings stay with Kellen Mond because his contract with Kirk Cousins, they're going to release him. I don't know. We know Marcus Mariota is a temporary solution because I know if I'm Atlanta, 2022 draft, you got a lot of quarterbacks that you can draft. But this game, though, it just shows that I don't think ever, I could be wrong, Atlanta Falcons, have they ever won a Super Bowl?
No, they've been to 2. And what the first one was a blowout against the Broncos in '99, and then of course you remember against the Buccaneers, of course, the Patriots with Tom Brady back in 2017, I believe.
They would never win a Super Bowl. Like it's just like I don't. There's something. It doesn't matter if you have Tom Brady on your staff or you have Drew Brees or Drew Pearson or anybody. They just for some reason. It was before 2017 Super Bowl 51, and especially now. We talked about it. I was hoping it would be 328 when we talked about it, but that's still 11 minutes away. But, man, it just shows that Jameis Winston really, like, he's fighting for his job. He knows the 2023 class is really good. Michael Thomas, who knows what's going to happen to him after the season. Kamara, we don't know if he's going to come up in November, December in that potential situation. So, I mean, I'm happy for them. The Saints signed one of their starter offensive linemen to another contract. They got a good team. Michael Thomas is back. I just think this is really going to be a long couple of years for the Saints, especially with how little money that they do have or how strapped they are. But congrats to the Saints for a really, really good win. I think we both picked up. But, man, it just – I don't know what it is about the Falcons. Usually in sports, you can make – there's this one thing. If they switch that up, boom, they can win a ton of games. But it's a mystery, James. How do the Atlanta Falcons keep blowing leads?
It's just a national pastime there, I guess. I don't know.
National holiday?
Every day, every Sunday, especially the big ones. My brother, Christopher Gonzalez, chimes in and says, "What's up, little bro?" He was there with me in LA at the Raider game, among other people. Great time. I'll go into that more. But a shout out to my brother and the other people I shared with. Go ahead, comment in wherever you want, and we'll read almost anything on there, not everything.
Almost. This is not Bolster Sports where anything goes. We're actually professional. We don't talk about or anything else on our show.
No, I hope not.
No.
All right, so the next game, as my phone decides not to load. It was really a wild Sunday. We had a tie as well. It was just crazy all over. Anyway, Cleveland and Carolina. And this was the Baker Mayfield revenge game, of course. Started out pretty slow, but got going late. Cleveland did lead 17-7 at the half, 20-7. Carolina made a comeback, did lead. It was a pair of field goals to end the game. Cleveland kicked the winning field goal to make it 26-24. First of all, Jacoby Brissett, only 147 yards, 1 touchdown passing. That's not, unexpected. I think you're being thrown into that situation with the whole Watson thing. That's going to be expected. But Nick Chubb, and this dude on fantasy on the ground, wherever you have him, he's awesome. 141 yards, 22 carries. Nothing really in the air, I should say. Kareem Hunt had a receiving touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones only had 6 receptions, 60 yards. But Baker Mayfield, he was the talk of this game. I know me and you were really looking forward to this game. He had 1 pick, 1 touchdown, 235 yards. Christian McCaffrey had a touchdown over the top into the end zone from, I think, 1 yard out. Baker Mayfield also had a running touchdown. Robbie Anderson had a pretty good game, 5 receptions, 102 yards, and 1 touchdown. I was kind of disappointed in Baker Mayfield. I thought he would do a little more. I thought he would show more, score more, but I know he had 2 touchdowns there, 1 rushing, 1 passing. But I was kind of disappointed. But maybe with Carolina and these 2 teams, you feel a little disappointment. You're gonna feel all year long, honestly. So, what were your thoughts from the game in Charlotte?
it's one of those things, James, where we said this is going to have to be a statement for Baker Mayfield. And he made that statement that he may not be a starter after this year. Again, we got 17 weeks left. We're not going to overreact. But the reason why I say this game was really important, and it was a statement game for him because it was against his former team. They didn't believe in him. They chose a guy who's not going to play until week 12 against the Houston Texans, who tied yesterday. But it's tough because, like, Baker clearly is not a great quarterback. Like, you're down at halftime. Carolina is that team. If things don't go well, they missed the playoffs. Mind you, Matt Rule got a fat contract in 2018 after completely rebuilding that Bears franchise in college football after those things that came out into the media. But it's like, if you don't win this year and learn in terms of winning record, make the playoffs, or at least have a winning record, you can be on the hot seat or fired, bro, because quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, not just this game, but this season, though, if Baker Mayfield can't do anything in the first 5 to 6 games, I'm sorry, I can't defend it. There's no more shot for him. Like, I used to try to defend Baker, but at some point you got to stop having excuses and start producing results. But Cleveland, maybe because it's just Carolina, or I don't know, maybe because the hype of trying to beat Baker and the Panthers, but it just shows that the Browns defense can play really, really well. Nick Chubb has been a phenomenal player. I think he has since 2018 came to the draft or to the NFL. Like top in most yards every 10-yard carry, something. It was crazy. And this guy's a really phenomenal player. Kareem Hunt's a really good player. And they got their tight ends. I think like they'll be okay. I think with other situations that are potentially happening in the AFC North in terms of injuries, they could use that to win a couple more games. You know, Jacoby Brissett's just a game manager. He's been in this situation before with the Colts in different in terms of having to come in, being thrown into the fire, not knowing that was going to happen. But I'll be curious to see what happens with both these teams moving forward. But two things for the Panthers, it's going to be a long season, like a really, really long season. And I think if Baker's smart, I get contractually you have to talk to the media. But if there are times that you don't have to, don't. Focus on playing football because this is a make it or break it year. And for the Browns, I don't know if I want to give them credit. You won, but I just lost complete respect for the Browns after they gave a contract to Watson. But for Jacoby Brissett, congrats to you, my man, Nick Chubb. Y'all play really well.
Okay, so the next game, I didn't know the weather conditions. I figured just Trey Lance had a bad game, but it was rainy, I guess, pretty much all game at Soldier Field. Anyway, the 49ers led 7-0 at the half there in Chicago. Then the Bears just took over the fourth quarter, especially. They ended up winning 19-0. Trey Lance, you know, all eyes were on him, definitely. Just 164 yards passing, 1 interception, 54 yards on the ground. Debo Samuel only had 52, but 1 touchdown. And nothing much from the passing game. Brandon Ayuk, just 2 receptions for 20 yards. For the Bears, though, Justin Fields, he did what he could, honestly. 121 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. Khalil Hilbert with 9 carries and 45 yards and 1 touchdown. Fields also had 28 on the ground as well. The Bears, how we don't really know any of their receivers, but they have a few names. Dante Pettis had 1 reception for 51 yards for a touchdown. Pringle had 1 reception as well. St. Brown had 1. Mooney had 1. St. Brown had the other touchdown for the Bears. So in these conditions, you can't really do much. But I think later on the Bears have found out what they can do, especially in the passing game. But they also ran just a little bit. I think it was a cool thing after the last snap. They went and slid in the water like it was a soccer game or something. Good little way to start the Bears season that really has no promise, but it was great to see the Bears win. And then for the 49ers, it just seems like a bad start, a disappointment. You want to get off to a high note, especially with expectations really high there in San Francisco. So what do you think about the game with the Bears and 49ers?
It's just one game, but you also gotta mind you though that again these are just rumors. I don't know anybody in the Niners organization. The organization wanted Lance, Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, and now it's like you see, like experience matters. Like you can have all the skill and talent, but if you don't, like you can have the experience. Trey Lance had 13 games in North Dakota State, but it's North Dakota State. I mean, come on, and you clearly are seeing that. Like they don't believe in Lance. Jimmy G can't stay healthy. I mean, Eli Mitchell, man, is supposed to be what I heard potential starter for the season, man. But clearly, George Kittle not having there in that game, I think definitely made a huge impact because he's not just a pass catcher, a thrower, a runner, but he's also a huge blocker. I mean, clearly there was some defensive miscommunication, or they misread the offense because Justin Fields had a wide open 30, 40-yard pass. It was like, what, in the third quarter, they were struggling. They really had any points in the game yet. And he just threw the ball and boom, a big yard pass. That definitely turned the tides, obviously, because, I mean, you could have built a water park in that stadium for how rainy it was.
Mm-hmm.
But hats off to Justin Fields, man, because I think, like I said, with the year, that's going to be really difficult. All you got is, Mooney and a bust first-round pick that came to New England. Now it's in Chicago, but he's injured. Honestly, who knows Herbert, whatever that running back is, he can get some yards. But I think really this is, I wouldn't say, I can say it's an experimental year in terms of, Justin Fields, your guy, trying to build the offense a little bit, go into the offseason, 130-plus million dollars against the cap. But hats out to the Bears for winning this game because this is a huge statement. Like, I think we know Justin Fields is the guy, but can the organization, can the staff, can the coordinators put the pieces and show and know what he's capable of, but implement that into on and off the field with practice and out of practice. But for the Niners, though, what on God's green earth was that? Who was quarterback? Did Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo show up? Like, I'm pretty sure Trey Lance played yesterday, but this guy is not a franchise quarterback. I mean, I'm sorry, but North Dakota State, look what happened. Carson Wentz is on his 13th make it or break it season, and he got drafted in 2016. Minnesota traded that pick to Philadelphia and vice versa, and Sam Bradford went to Minnesota. We know how that ended. It's just tough to let an interception. You do no time. I get it's just a rainy game, so let's not oh my gosh, Trey Lance is a bust. I'll give that. It literally was a similar game the Niners had, I think the year before the 2020, where they were playing Washington before they had changed their name, and it was a huge rainy game. So, Drew McGraw, this is the season they went to the Super Bowl, 2019-2020, and it's very similar results. Didn't play really well. It was a rainy game, but they won. So I'm not gonna we're gonna say, oh my gosh, Trey Lance is not doing this. It's one game, especially literally in those conditions, you could slide from the 1 all the way to the 100 with ease, completely at all. So it could have built a water park. So SeaWorld, you had the opportunity, or all the water parks, Fiesta, Texas, you had your chance. But nah, it's all good and fun. It was a rainy game, but hats out to Chicago Bears really taking advantage of that because, as you know, the history of Ohio State quarterbacks is not because of that. I think also you have to implement the right staff.
So the next game, and this one is near dear to your heart or your palpitations. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. This game was a tale of two halves, honestly. Pittsburgh got some turnovers early. Micah Fitzpatrick right away got a pick from Joe Burrow. They ended up leading 17-6 at the half. Bengals went on a scoring spree in the second half, but this game came down to field goals, unfortunately. First of all, Mitchell Trubisky, 194 yards passing, 1 touchdown. But what I really thought the Steelers were going to do well on the ground, and they didn't really. Claypool had to end around sometimes. Najee Harris only had 23 yards rushing, but he had a reception for a touchdown. But they went to their tight ends mostly. Not having Washington there really hurt the Steelers there. And then for the Bengals offensively, Joe Burrow, 338 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 4 picks, like you mentioned. Joe Mixon, 27 carries, but only 82 yards. That's going to happen against that great Steeler defense. Jamar Chase, though, 10 receptions with 129 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 16 targets. Joe Mixon had 63 yards, 7 receptions as well. Then they kind of spread it around with everybody else. But in the end, McPherson missed a field goal. Boswell did it for the Steelers. What did you think of your Bengal unfortunate loss?
You nearly threw 7 interceptions. 2 or 3 of them were called back. One was Joe Burrow. Nathan Peterman could have played better than you in the first 3 quarters. What kind of bullshit is that? Are you kidding me? I'm going insane. I'm listening to the game as I'm going to my cousins to watch the rest of the Sunday games. Red Zone, shout out to Red Zone. They do a really good job. But, oh my, what? This is the thing that we talk about. We sit on our opening statements. The offensive line is the most important thing. You partly addressed it. You didn't fully address it. The playoffs last year, we're going to catch up to it in terms of how many times Joe Burrow got sacked. Not once, not twice, 4 to 5, maybe almost 6 times per game. I don't care how good our quarterback is. And Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, national champion. If you keep getting hit time and time again, it's going to catch up to you. And I think it's really, really tough for me. Running game wasn't doing anything like 3.12 yards per carry on the day for Joe Mixon. That wasn't doing well. Jamar Chase played well. We know what he's about. Him and Justin Jefferson, Minnesota. But it's like this offense couldn't get anything going. The defense, man, what was that? Like, even with the offensive line not doing the job, Joe Burrow, what were you thinking? This is not the Joe Burrow we saw in college. This is not the Joe Burrow we've seen in the NFL his first 2 seasons. So what I don't understand is, what is his mentality, though? Like, what is the point? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you serious? I can put a lot on the offensive line because Mike Brown is a travesty in football. He is an absolute joke and a buffoon. You cannot rely only on your quarterback to win you games, no matter what team you are. Your quarterback can only take you so far if your offensive line is literally being a waiter at Denny's. Here's a pancake. You get a pancake. You get a pancake. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? Excuse me, my headphones unplugged. What are you doing? But for the Steelers, I give him full credit. I mean, Fitzpatrick definitely changed his career going from Miami to the Steelers. But Trubisky, though, I mean, he played like a game manager. Nothing crazy. But, man, dude, it's just the Steelers could maybe be a team this year. But, again, a lot of factors, as we know, did happen in that game. But my final thought for the Bengals, though, again, it's just week 1. We take it 1 week at a time. But this is not just a game of, okay, we move forward. Let's see what we need to address. There's so many things you need to address. You play on Sunday. You have 45 days at best to address it. Like, I don't understand, like, why Joe Burrow all of a sudden is like, I'm not going to play football. And so we'll have to see what happens, man. But the Steelers, I give them full credit. They played great. They made Joe Burrow look like Nathan Peterman. So I got to give credit where credit's due, even though it makes me sick to my football stomach.
Burrow sacked 7 times, 3 times by Alex Highsmith. And also TJ Watt had it. I have to admit, he had a great interception there at the line. Next game, it was the home opener for just like it was for everybody else, Detroit. And we were hoping for a good game, and it seemingly felt like we had one. Philadelphia won 38-35. The stats here, I should say, for Jalen Hurts. There are no stats. But what did you think about that game in Detroit? Was it a seesaw battle? What did you see there?
I think this shows that because Detroit nearly came back. They were down by 10-plus points, and they came back within 3. So I think we're kind of seeing maybe of what Dan Campbell is trying to really address, I think, with this team. So I'm looking at Jalen Hurts' stats. I could be correct on this. But, man, the Eagles, because this is a make it or break it year. Now, mind you, Jalen Hurts didn't play that great either. He had, I think, a run for a touchdown, 243 yards, a quarterback rating of 80.6, no touchdowns, no picks, nothing great, nothing special, nothing terrible, but it was just like a lukewarm thing of potatoes from the mic. Nothing great, but it does the job. Have A.J. Brown. Miles Sanders, though, I'll give him his credit, man. It's been 2 years since he scored a touchdown, so, of course, injury, so I give him credit being able to come back through that adversity. But and this is the win they had to do because I think when you look at it now, the NFC East is what tied for first place with a couple of teams. You had other teams in that division win, other teams in that division lose, but it's all good and fun, though, at the end of the day. But I mean, they played not bad, but you nearly blew a lead to Detroit. So this is something that they're going to have to focus on early on. Look at the tape on the defense. Look on the offense. What are we not doing? Because at some point in this game, if you look at it, they're up by 10, 12 points against Detroit, and you still nearly blew the lead. So clearly they didn't want it enough. They won. I give them credit, but at the same time, 56, less than 57 completion percentage. And really? A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders, and those guys? I'm not saying this is, let's freak out. Let's say, throw in the towel on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. But this should be wide for concern and things to address because your defense not nearly blew it. You also blew it. You didn't throw a touchdown, so they're going to have to use their weapons more moving forward.
Yeah, by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't throw for a touchdown, but had 243 yards passing. Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. That seems like his norm. Yeah. He'll throw for touchdowns, but he'll add some picks into there. Miles Sanders for the Eagles rushing 96 yards, 1 touchdown. They actually had 4 rushing touchdowns, so they did it on the ground. Scott, Gainwell, and Hurts also added 1 with Sanders. DeAndre Swift, this guy was all over the place for the Lions. If you had him on fantasy, you did pretty well. 144 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Williams had 2 touchdowns. He's a backup for Swift there. A.J. Brown, I was really looking forward to what he was going to do this year. 155 yards receiving on 10 receptions. For the Lions, the 2 touchdowns were receiving by St. Brown and DJ Shark Jr. So, again, a valiant effort for the Lions trying to come back, but the scoring done by Philadelphia, 24 in the second, 14 in the third. You were not going to overcome that, but the Lions showed that, hey, maybe they have some fight in them, but not good enough yet to beat, I guess, supreme teams. I don't know if the Eagles will be. We'll find out. The next game in Miami, it was – go ahead, sir.
Mind you, when we talked about Detroit last year, we're like, who does he have to throw to? And now we're talking about Amani St. Brown as a potential Pro Bowl, All-Pro receiver. And I'm like, that huge turnaround is crazy. But again, like I said, they don't have the firepower right now.
Yeah. Next game in Miami, it was Tyreek Hill's debut with the Dolphins. They were hosting the Patriots. And right away, a 17-0 at the half. Both teams added a little more, but it was 20-7 Miami. Seems like they were in control all game long. No doubt about that. Mac Jones, who ended up getting hurt, he had 213 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. The focus, though, was on Tua Tagovailoa. 270 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and no picks, but he was sacked 3 times, Jones twice. Nothing really on the ground for the Patriots. The Dolphins did that to stifle the rushing game. And the Patriots defense did that as well. Not much on the ground here. No touchdowns at all. It was in the air. Montgomery just had the touchdown for New England in the air. And then Jalen Waddle had a touchdown receiving. Tyreek Hill in his debut, 8 receptions and 94 yards. That was mainly it. But it goes back to the Miami defense, I think. In that game, they were able to pressure Mac Jones, not let him do as much. Only 70% completing ration there. Quarterback rating was pretty low. So what did you think about Miami's performance and the way that they stifled the Patriots all game long pretty much?
At least for this game, I was way off. I was 100% wrong because, like, first of all, Belichick has started to get exposed, continue to get exposed. Because I think when you look at when Brady left in 2020, because 2019 supposedly the Miami story, we're not going through that because that's been hashed out. But you're thinking, oh, is it all Belichick? Is that 50-50, 60-40, 40-60? Is it vice versa, 80 in either other way? Right now, you're kind of seeing that. Can Belichick really do it on his own? I mean, my God, 17-0 against Mike Daniels, who looks like a Bass Pro Shop salesman, as their head coach, and Tua played really well. Tyreek Hill played really well, and their defense has been one of their staples for the past couple of seasons. So I think we're kind of seeing the recipe of the Dolphins this year, slowly but surely, where we can see the defense gets it done. Tua may not have the best numbers, but he will have some games in there potentially where, oh my, Tua D-ball downfield to Tyreek Hill. And I'll say at the end of the season, if I'm wrong about it, I have no problem with that. I'll issue an apology video. Like, I'm cool. Like, I would rather be wrong about a guy. But in this game, it shows more the fraudulence of New England than it does Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Now, really, 17-0. You couldn't score a field goal. You can't do anything without Brady. You got destroyed against Buffalo last year. The playoffs. You literally played like a pee-wee football team. So I think when you're really looking at the Dolphins, though, I give them full credit that we said, oh, this is going to be Buffalo's division. This is all going to be 100% Buffalo. And now it's like Dolphins, maybe. Again, I say maybe. It's just 1 week. We're not going to overreact and say, the Dolphins are going to the playoffs. They're going to win a division. We're not going to be like some people at ESPN or First Take here. But it just wears, you're starting to see maybe what Tua can do with those weapons, with Tyreek Hill, with Jay Waddle, with Mike Gesicki tight end, who can do multiple different facets for the Dolphins. But I give him full credit. I was wrong. I picked the Patriots to win this game, and hey, I was wrong, man. It was definitely not a kind of game I was expecting from New England or Miami.
Okay, so the next game in rainy New Jersey, it was the Jets home opener facing Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And we knew coming into the game, before the game, I should say, on Friday was the deadline for the Ravens to offer him more money. Lamar Jackson turned it down. He wants what he thinks he's worth without an agent. So that was out of the table. We would see, hey, how would he come out? And he did pretty well. 213 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked twice. Kenyon Drake, the former Raider, he ran for 31 yards. Jackson had 17 yards only rushing. I think the Jets tried to shut that down. But then he went to the air, did Jackson. Rashard Bateman had 1 touchdown. DeVarnway, though, had 2. That was the key there. Andrews, 52 yards receptions on 52 yards on 5 receptions, I should say. But the Jets did Jets things. Watching the highlights. Zach Wilson, of course, out for the first 4 weeks or more. Joe Flacco, the Ravens know, looked kind of more like Shane Falco, in the first games of that movie, The Replacements. He did have 307 yards passing, but it was mostly during garbage time, extended garbage time. He had 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and 3 receptions. Michael Carter did well on the ground for the Jets, and I say well enough for Jets standards. 10 carries, 100 or just 60 yards. He did have a scamper for 22 yards. But in the air, no touchdowns for the Jets. Davis only had 77 yards. Wilson 52, Moore 49, Carter for 40 out of the backfield, Hall for 38. Tucker, probably the best kicker in the game, had 1 field goal made. Greg Zuerlein, he had his issues kicking. He was 1 for 2. I think he missed a extra point as well. He's kind of trended down. He was with the Rams all those years. Greg Zuerlein, I know we're talking about kickers, but he went to Dallas and he didn't do well. and now he's with the Jets. It seems like he's kind of getting out of the league. But what did you think about Lamar Jackson's performance, coming out of the contract issue that they'll just deal with when it comes up after this season? And then what the Jets couldn't do, basically.
I think it shows that, I think from the kicker's point of view, I say kicker, like I'm not a kicker, but like watching kickers is that, well, it's a very important position in the NFL, no doubt. This is why I appreciate guys like Tucker and the kicker for the Bengals and one other guy in the league, because like what Mike Nugent was saying on my show last year is that you go, Eddie, you're 85% on your field goals, you're getting cut. That's a terrible year for a kicker. And to be able to stay with your same team as a kicker is really, really hard. Mind you, Matt Prater spent many, many years with the Broncos and got in trouble for something really, really stupid, and he's in Detroit. So it just shows like being a kicker and being with the same team is without a doubt difficult. But I think you look at this game with the Jets and Ravens, Zach Wilson they're talking about because he's a player. But it's tough, man, because like Flacco, 3,300 yards per season in his career, 3,500 yards. His average quarterback, you know what you're going to get. They have a great guy in Michael Carter. They have this, what's his name at receiver? I'm blanking on it at the moment. He's a really good guy, second year in the league. And you have maybe some defensive players. You have Quentin Williams, but I don't know what's happened to him. So I think if you look at also from the Ravens' point, I don't blame Lamar Jackson wanting a new contract, because if you look at guys like Watson, who a playoff win, no MVPs, off the field issues. Lamar Jackson, no off the field issues, MVP, a couple of playoff wins, and it set a rushing record that beat Michael Vick. So just from that face point, deserves a new contract. But like we said before, that contract that Browns gave to Deshaun Watson was going to ruin potential future quarterback contracts, because guys are going to look and they say, hey, I have no off-the-field issues. I have multiple playoff wins. I've been contention for MVP. Where is my $250+ million? And I get it from that standpoint. But now you're betting on yourself, and I think it's really tough in terms of the style that you play. You're more susceptible to get hurt. They're going to rely more on Lamar Jackson to run the football, while you have a rookie to throw to. At best, you have nobody to throw to. Hollywood Brown was traded to Arizona, who got embarrassed. Like, obviously, we know the Ravens are going to win the game. It's Joe Flacco. What is Joe Flacco known for? Stealing money from Baltimore. So maybe Baltimore doesn't want to be stolen from a game like Lamar Jackson. I don't know. But I think for the Ravens, though, while it's a good win, you're going to have to look at moving forward there, where hopefully with whatever internal drama or stuff that's going on, please keep it in-house. We don't need to know your mess. But for the Ravens, I mean, I guess congrats on the win. I mean, I don't know like how much praise you should really be getting, because who do they really have a corner for the Jets? Do they really have anybody like, oh my goodness, that guy's dominant dig towards them? It's not like Diggs or Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I could maybe potentially think of the names, Brian Poole, P-O-L-E, with the corner maybe for the Jets. But other than that, you don't have anybody. So I guess it's a win for the Ravens. Not great, not good, because you really don't know the future of Lamar Jackson and a lot of these weapons at offense and defense.
I can say the defense sort of retooled in the offseason. They kind of got a little better, but more enough maybe to, compete in that division for sure. Next game in Maryland, Landover, Maryland. Washington, the Commanders, the first game as them at home against the Jaguars. This was a seesaw battle back and forth. Carson Wentz was the hero. He threw a touchdown late in that game to Jalen Dotson, 24 yards out, to make the Commanders win 28-23, or 22, excuse me, 28-22. Carson Wentz, it was his debut, of course, with them. He had 4 touchdowns and 2 picks. He was sacked once. Trevor Lawrence, 275 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and he was sacked twice. I was hoping to see more from him. James Robinson had a rushing touchdown as well. Not much from the rushing game for the Commanders, unfortunately. And then Christian Kirk definitely showed why he got paid a lot. 6 receptions, 117 yards. Only James Robinson also had a receiving touchdown as well. So McLaurin, Samuel, and then Dotson had 2 touchdowns for Washington. So it was a real offensive game in a way, and that was really good to see. But it's just one of these games where you know anything can happen here on week 1 and the first 4 weeks, as I say. But it just shows you Jacksonville maybe not ready yet to beat even the teams like Washington. They're still trying to find their way. Even though you bring in a guy like Kirk, you're still learning on the fly, with Lawrence. You have the running backs there. At least you have those 2. But those guys have to show up more. And I think it was good for Washington with Ron Rivera in the hot seat to win, to start off well, even without Chase Young for however long he's going to be out. It was good to get the opening day win against Jacksonville at home. What did you think about this game?
First of all, I want to say from the Jaguars' point, if you're really looking at Trevor Lawrence, I get it, you're learning on the fly. I think it was like a 3rd or 4th down play. I see Trevor Lawrence get it, roll out to the left, looking downfield, and he makes his throw. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That ices the game. Like, you could, if you read the play right, you could have had it down the field, boom, get a couple yards. It's the first time you have a chance to nearly get your same amount of wins as last year in the first game of the season. And, like, I just don't get it, dude. I get, like, college doesn't translate to the NFL, but just looking at that throw, I'm like, oh, my God. Like, what were you thinking? That was absolutely stupid. I'll go more on the Washington side of this. I think there are a huge high-pressured year because Chase Young could be out potentially for the season or a significant amount of time. Ron Rivera's on the hot seat. You have Ryan Kerrigan, who's now on the sidelines like a coordinator or helper for the Washington Commanders. So really, a lot of your guys are out. So you really have this huge year that you're going to have. Terry McLaurin got paid. Carson Wentz, like he said, a North Dakota State quarterback who's just make it or break it year. I give him credit. We had 3 to 4 touchdowns in this game, but moving forward, that they're going to have to adjust. And I think hopefully Ron Rivera doesn't feel the pressure, even though there's a lot of pressure. But I believe there's more pressure on Ron Rivera than there is in Carson Wentz, even though they both have a lot of pressure. Meaning, if Ron Rivera, they have a losing season and don't make the playoffs, he's not going to be a head coach and get in the league. How do you handle Chase Young was a great draft pick, but at the same time, like, and this is where some people may not agree. If you draft a top running back, if you draft a top defensive player, and you still don't know how to draft a quarterback or pick a quarterback, you're not going to win a playoff game. You're not going to win Super Bowls. It's going to have short-term success. And you saw that with Washington in 2020. You went 7-9 in that terrible division. Dak Prescott with his injury. Hopefully, you'll be okay. Now, I'm not saying he was a bad pick, but time and time again, you're still not picking a quarterback. You had Allen. Hopefully, Winston's the guy. It's just what game he looked good. But I think moving forward, it'll be curious to see who I think Washington, I'll put one team I think that they're going to have to absolutely win against. If you looking at their schedule, they play Detroit. They will. I think the toughest team they'll play this year is. Wow, they really don't have anybody almost this year. Oh my God! Like literally, I'm looking at it, Chance. Maybe, and I'll be generous. I'll say the Eagles. Eagles of course at best are your tough. Maybe Minnesota are your toughest teams this year. So really, I think I'm not saying it's the roller coaster year where you're just going to relax and do anything like that. But it's not going to be as tough of us. You have a much easier season. But take that time and take that advantage to help Carson Wentz get better, to help that defense get better, to kind of adjust and see what the offense can do. Because mind you, Carson Wentz can still run and throw the football. It's just a matter of him. I think he's like Trubisky with more playoff experience. In terms of the confidence in himself is really low. And if you take that time with this type of schedule, I think they're going to be just fine. But hats off to Washington for pulling that off, though, because it could have been easy to be, oh, it's just Jacksonville. We got it. Somehow they didn't. I assume they weren't being cocky, but hats off to Washington for that. But Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, I know it's just one game. You have the right head coach in the building for right now. And so I think with a guy like Doug Peterson and substituting his culture, they'll be fine. They'll obviously be better than last year. You can't get any worse than that. But well, I would hope not. But hats off to the Commanders for winning the game, especially with their one of their running backs who is still. I don't know if he's fully recovered yet from his being shot. So I wish him nothing but the best. And shout out to him though, because he came back a week or 10 days later after his incident. And so tough guy. I wish him the best. I hope he kicks butt. But I give the Commanders credit for this game. But it's yet again we're seeing the NFC East of 2020 happen in 2022.
Yeah. Next game before your time. This was a Barbara Walters special 2020 tie there in Houston with the Colts and the Texans. This game ended up at halftime 10-3. Houston looked like they were going to run away with it. Then the Colts came back and they got to overtime. And I'll let you talk in a little bit about Lovie Smith's fatal decision to basically end in a tie when you think about it. But really quick, the stat lines here. If Matt Ryan, first game with the Colts, 352 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked twice. That 1 pick was really good by whomever that was with Houston. Davis Mills, though, 204 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. Jonathan Taylor, this guy's amazing. 31 carries, 161 yards, and 1 touchdown. Rex Burkhead and Pierce, the rookie, they had minor gains here. Michael Pittman Jr., the USC Trojan, the second-year man, 9 receptions, 121 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. Not much else from the other guys there with the Colts. Brandon Cooks had 82 yards receiving. O.J. Howard, who was signed just last week, had 2 touchdowns for Houston. They're bringing people off the street to score for Houston whenever they can score. Anyway, unfortunately, Matt Ryan, I wanted to see him win this game. I think it would be a great confidence booster. The AFC South certainly showed why they are who they are this week, and this game really showed it. So I'm gonna let you rant on the Lovie Smith decision in overtime. But what was your overall synopsis of this game?
You can take Matt Ryan out of Atlanta, but you can't take the Atlanta out of Matt Ryan. And this is you were losing against the Houston Texans. Wait. Let me check. What year is it? Hey Siri, what year is it? It's 2022, and you're losing against the Texans. Really? You're starting off the year like Carson Wentz, a bunch of garbage time yards? Seriously. One play was 20-3. Seriously. And I said this about Matt Ryan. So he's like Phillip Rivers with less children and more playoff experience. He's like Kirk Cousins, but with more playoff experience. I mean, seriously? This guy's a nobody. I'm sorry, but he's a more stat-padded, lays bag of potato chips with more air than chips than Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry, his narrative of his career is nothing different. Nothing was going to magically change. You can't take the Atlanta out of Matt Ryan. I mean, the Colts here, this is a team that you've had your defense for many, many years. You made that blood pressure trade in 2020, which I didn't expect, for DeForest Buckner. But yet again, you still haven't been able to have your quarterback. I get to a certain extent to maybe 2020 or 2021 where, hey, Andrew retired surprisingly, but at the same time, you really look at it, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, it came without reason because they did put the offensive line around him. Now they have offensive line, but they still haven't been able to pick their quarterback. Trading for Matt Ryan was a mistake. I'm sorry, this is not just this game, this is his career overall. You're going to have the same potential results as Philip Rivers. People are like, oh my gosh, Philip Rivers from the Colts. I'm like, they're not going to the division round. They're going to lose in the wild card round. They're not going to do much. And they got destroyed by the Tennessee Titans, who also lost against the Jets last year. So I just don't see how magically, and I get people just say, hey, you got Michael Pittman, you got Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the league. and yet you were down 20-3. But at the same time, I get like you're down, you run the ball, you run the clock down, you may not have a chance to come back. They had a situation of Derrick Henry with the Titans last year where 500 plus carries if you start all 17 games. But like, dude, 20-3. And first of all, Lovie Smith has no balls to make a big decision. Are you kidding me? You are 4th down in overtime to win the game potentially, even if you miss the conversion. You tried and tried, but your balls just disappeared, and you're like, let's punt it on 4th down in overtime. According to the new overtime rules, which I don't agree with, I think they're stupid. Some of them, at least, are stupid. I should go into sudden death until someone scores. With that being said, the rules are right now, after the first overtime, it's going to be a tie, which I think is really, really stupid because I want to see it like go back and forth to see, because nobody likes ties. With that being said, stats show, I mean, I'm not saying like anything can happen, but having a tie. When's the last time we saw a team that had like 1 or 2 ties in the season and did a lot? I can't think of one. There probably is. But it's like, dude, are you kidding me? You told us we're going to change around the culture. We're going to change the organization. We're not going to be stupid. And in the first game in your home stadium, 4th down, and you punt it? Davis Mills nearly had 300 yards. A guy that has a long neck like a dry, and he can at least throw the ball down the field. You have guys that can run. They're not great, but they can get you something better than a yard or two. And you punt it? Anyone and their grandmother, anyone in the max, anyone can say that's a stupid play. Like, you have a chance to win the game, especially with the Colts losing, especially with the Titans blowing a lead, which we're going to talk about. And it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I criticize this because I love football and know football. But I criticize stupid football decisions. There is no pro football stat. There is no stat. There is no symmetrics. There is no Instagram post where you can be like, oh, this is a wonderful, wonderful decision. I can go through my phone and be like, oh, here's a bite. Whew, that's a lot better than what your stupid self did. You punt it on overtime. It's 4th down because, like, again, the Colts were managing to come back in this game. So let's say you punt it, the Colts get it, and they go down the field. I mean, it's just absolutely stupid. It just shows you. We know 2033 in the quarterback draft class. We'll talk about that later in the season. It shows you, last thing here, James, because I could go on all day about this. It's so stupid. You don't believe in your offense. You don't believe in Davis Mills. You don't believe in Brandon Cooks, who's one of the most underrated receivers in the league right now. You don't believe in O.J. Howard, who was supposed to sign with the Bengals and had 2 touchdowns. And we needed a blocker, offensive linebacker. Brian, you know what you're doing. Seriously? And you're wondering why fans are pissed off. Like, we know the head coach you had last year, he was just a puppet for the organization. And maybe Lovie Smith is too, because I don't see any head coach coming in rebuilding or changing this organization. When they relocated, and now 2002, Derek Carr kept getting hit time and time again. You saw that Davis Mills, he had what, 3 sacks in this game, or got sacked 3 times in this game. So, I mean, it just shows, like, if this is the only sample size we get right now for the Houston Texans, your season is going to suck. You are already projected to be the worst team in football, and it shows already.
Mm-hmm. Some observations that I had, little funny ones. Davis Mills, he has like a llama neck, and then his face looks like Captain Crunch. And then Lovie Smith, I heard someone say this, so I can't take credit for it. I don't know who, though. That's not good of giving credit out. But he looks like the Black Santa Claus. So I just thought that was funny to me. But I heard the thing with Lovie Smith. He said, well, the defense was gassed. What do you think about that?
Your offense is on the field, dumbass. Like, what? What does that have to do with the defense? You can run the ball 4 to 5 yards and can get the first down. You're a complete fool. What? Your defense is on the sidelines. How in God's Al Gore's internet would they be gassed? Seriously? This is the guy to rebuild your franchise? Are you stupid? What?
No.
What? Are you kidding me? Like that? I'm sorry, but James, what does the defense have to do with your team playing like crap? Like seriously, what? That makes no sense. Get that garbage out. This guy's a joke. He's probably another puppet for the Texans because he doesn't have the guts to do what he wants to do. That's just the stupidest thing. You're blaming your defense being gassed when they're on the sidelines and your offense can't produce horse manure.
Oh, God. Okay, so the next game was a former Houston tenant. It was the Tennessee Titans hosting the New York Giants, and it looked like Tennessee was in the driver's seat. They were up 13-0 at the half. Then the Giants came back, and at the end of the game, Brian DeBall, the first-year head coach of the Giants, said, "Hey, go for two to try to win this game." They're not being sissies there with the Giants, it seems like, and everybody has his back for now. I heard it in press conference. But Daniel Jones passed a touchdown, and then he passed the 2-point conversion to Saquon Barkley to win the game 21-20. And it was great to see Saquon Barkley back. I mean, he's been often injured. But Daniel Jones, for what he doesn't do in the air, he, of course, does on the ground, but that was totally opposite of yesterday. 188 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Ryan Tannehill, 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked once. Jones was sacked 5 times, and you mentioned that he tripped on himself again. He seems to have a habit of that twice. Wow. Saquon Barkley with 18 carries, 164 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 yards. And usually that's his bread and butter right there. Another injury plagued the running back from last year. Derrick Henry only had 82 yards on the ground, 21 carries. Hillard had, a great game, but in the air. He had 2 touchdowns reception-wise. And they're trying to find someone. I mean, they got rid of A.J. Brown. They brought in Robert Woods for the receivers, but it was pretty mediocre. And that's gonna kill the chances of Tennessee doing well. In the air, the Giants, again, they had Sterling Shepard. He scored 1 touchdown. Myrack had the game-winning touchdown there late. Or not game-winning. The 2-point was game-winning there. But the chance to get there. Is this more a loss or a win? Okay, so Tennessee loses the game, or is this the gamble for the Giants to win the game? Which was more surprising to you, with the Texans losing it the way they did, or the Giants going for it in week 1 and saying, hey, we want to get out of here with the win. We don't want to tie with them. Just to have the guts like that, what they do in college usually, where they have a chance not to go into overtime. Oh, just go for it. We have nothing to lose here. So that was cool to see. But what did you think about those situations in the game?
I think, Lovie Smith, I need you to pay attention and take a page from their book. They had the guts. They had the guts to go for it. And this is the thing where we know Ryan Tannehill, and for whatever voice I have left on me in these podcasts, sorry, I was thinking about something. We know the legacy. We know. Sorry, man. I'm thinking about something else. We know the legacy and the career of Ryan Tannehill. We know what he's not. He's not going to take it to the Super Bowl. And this is the thing where I believe running backs are important, but they're not that important in the league anymore. Like, it's sorry to offend people, but I'm talking about having multiple running backs. If you expect to have one guy that get 350 plus carries a year, 12 plus touchdowns, and that's going to help you win a Super Bowl. When's the last time? The last 20 years? None. And especially in a day and age when it's a quarterback-friendly league, a passing-friendly league, running backs have to do more than just run and pass. You just can't have more than one running back. That's what I'm saying. Having Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, you're never going to win the AFC. You're not going to go to the AFC Championship game. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. It's just simply not going to happen whatsoever. And so I think you blow a lead to the Giants. This is 2 years straight. Daniel Jones trips on his own foot when he had a big run. I don't know how that happens even once. When you're running, it's like, let's keep running. Like you said, let's keep swimming. How do you trip on your own foot? My cousin was joking. She's like, oh, they can come back in this game. And look what happened. Like, I don't get, it's the weirdest thing. The weirdest part of yesterday, outside of everything else, was the kicking for so many football teams. I mean, seriously? Like, game winner, others the game winner. The Giants, they wanted it more. They had the guts, and they know the past failure, and they know that, hey, you didn't pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. Saquon, we don't know what's going to happen with him. But for them, they would have come out and won this game early on. I give them credit because sooner or later, Malik Willis is going to be caught. I'm not saying he's the guy. But if you draft a guy like him out of, I believe it was South Carolina, and quarterbacks out of the 2023 draft, like, it doesn't make sense. Ryan Tannehill's days as a starter are done after this year, my prediction, and he's done as a starter in the league. I'm sorry. This is like, I'm not saying Miami did him right. He had another chance in Tennessee, and he blew it. He had a terrible year last year, and this game is this division's wide open. But who's going to take it? The Colts tied. Tennessee lost. Houston tied. So, like, and the Jaguars lost. So nobody through week one has a win in the AFC South. So
they are the new NFC East.
There's the NFC East, and then there's the NFC Turds. AFC South. Yeah. Like, how? No team in that division has a win. Like, so 3 and 4 teams are tied for first place because you don't have a loss, but you didn't win. That's 0 and 1, 0, 0 and 1, 0, 0 and 1, 0, 1 and 0, 1.
Imagine we have a 7 and 10 divisional winner in that year in this season in that division. 7 and 10 gets in.
We're never putting that Matt Hasselbeck here.
No, 2010,
that would be hilarious. Well, we did have that back in 2020 with the Washington Commanders because Dak Prescott's shoulder injury. So
yeah.
We could have that in the AFC South, but I think it shows that Tannehill, if his days are numbered, you can't beat Daniel Penny in the Giants. How do you expect to win a playoff game? Like, this is not just 1 year. This is 2019. This is 2020. This is 2021. 3 years. 0, 0 and 1, 0, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Nobody has a win in the first week of the season in that division.
Well, the next game, and this was one of the marquee matchups in the late games, Green Bay went to Minnesota. The rivalry, of course, in the NFC North. Minnesota just had the fast track in this game, and they just blew it open. It really solidified what I was saying, a couple of things. I told my friend yesterday, I said, hey, Aaron Rodgers doesn't really care about these opening week big matchup games. He usually saves his best for later. And then Justin Jefferson, like I predicted in the show on Wednesday, I thought he was going to get Offensive Player of the Year, and he certainly showed it. First of all, with Aaron Rodgers, he only had 195 yards passing, no touchdowns, and he was sacked 4 times with 1 interception. So, and then Jordan Love came in late to take his place, 65 yards passing, but nothing else. Kirk Cousins, 277 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 1 sack. On the ground, the Packers didn't do much. Jones had 49, Dillon with 45 and a touchdown. Dalvin Cook, who changed his number 4, I believe, like he was in college. He had 90 yards rushing, no touchdowns there. Receiving-wise, the Packers, there wasn't much at all. There wasn't anybody who stood out. Their best reception person was a running back, and it was A.J. Brown. that shows you how much I think they missed Devontae Adams in a way. But Justin Jefferson, I think, was the story of this game. 9 receptions, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a 64-yard reception as well for a touchdown. He's just going to be amazing this year. I believe with that new offense, with the new head coach there, Kevin O'Connell, he's going to take what he did with Cooper Kupp with the LA Rams and make that into Justin Jefferson. And you certainly have seen that after week 1. I know it's just week 1, but you can kind of see the predictions and how that's going to go. So what did you think about, first of all, the Packers and Rodgers issue, and then the resurgence maybe of the Viking offense with Jefferson leading the way?
Aaron Rodgers is currently the most overrated Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL. Like, you save your best for what? To lose in the NFC Championship game? To lose in the divisional round? This guy, they haven't won a Super Bowl in 11 years. I have no problem with you calling it your receivers. At the same time, people need to stop ass-kissing Aaron Rodgers. I'm getting sick of that, whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Brady. Tell the truth and stop being, but you can't please everybody. That being said, though, we both said you're going to miss Devontae Adams. It's going to be a big factor. Watkins played a little bit. Lazard was out. Aaron Jones looked like he was, I guess, he just disappeared. Nothing really happened with him. We know the Vikings had the better defense. We know the Vikings had the better receivers. You have Thielen. You have Justin Jefferson. You have Dalvin Cook, who's also your running back. So those guys can really play. But, like, come on. We're going to have the same narrative where I still pick the Vikings to win a division by 1 or 2 games. And it's just week 1. So I'm not going to be, oh, my gosh, because if we see the Packers take a resurgence and they do good and they fail in the playoffs. But that's also with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is not there. So I think you could see a potential shift in resurgence where, okay, first couple weeks you don't care. You come back and win. You had that huge win against Arizona last year because A.J. Green had a huge Higgins moment and pooped his pants in the end zone. But I don't see, what are you going to do moving forward in week 5, week 10, and you had that resurgence? Who's going to be your main weapon? It's not Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has been tossed on the league more than Queso does at the Super Bowl party. And so I just don't think, who's he going to establish with? Rodgers looked terrible. 2 or 3 quarters, he had less than 85 passing yards. This is a guy we know as a future first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not debating that. But what I'm saying that right now, he has done nothing with the Packers in the past 11 years. To a certain extent, I will say they have not, up until a while back, have put defensive players on that team. Because imagine that playoff series against Seattle years ago in the Legion of Boom was a thing. Those guys were out of the league in 2 years. So I'll give them that. But right now, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are going to do anything. And I go back to this because I believe this is very important before I talk about the Vikings side and let you continue your great hosting duties, is this. Matt LaPoo. I will call Matt LaPoo again, Matt LaTurd. When you literally, where Tennessee is the offensive coordinator? They're right there, the 6th ranked worst offense in the National Football League with Marcus Mariota. And somehow, with the top 6 worst offense in the league, you're going to translate that to a quarterback who hadn't won a Super Bowl in 10 years and magically win a Super Bowl? That's stupid. And this is the thing where people need to hold Aaron Rodgers accountable. Because when you have him cussing out your head coach a couple years ago or doing this or that, if it was guys like Breeze or other guys, they would have been criticized. So why is Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden, he's free of criticism? For what? Enough with the excuses. Punt off. Stop having these excuses. It's absolutely insane. I'll give Vikings the credit though. I believe we both picked him in this game. I think we both saw it, not because they were playing. The Packers were playing away, and the Vikings were playing at home. I just think with the future of who's their backup quarterback? More important, Justin Jefferson is a phenomenal player. You have Jalen Reagor, you guy who can get some passes here and there. You have Dalvin Cook. You have really good weapons. Kevin O'Connell. I think they're going to be a much better team this year. And for me to say that's so weird to say, but I give the Vikings 100% full credit. I just think looking at the Packers side of this moving forward, you don't have Adams, and you're going to lose key games, and that's what I think how they go to adjust. Is Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur going to have drama, and then Aaron Rodgers continues to get a pass? This is not Tinder. You can't swipe left or right and get a pass. You need to hold Rodgers accountable, and I'm seeing so many media members that are like so worried about being buddy-buddy with everybody. Because as you know, you can't please everybody. You can't please everybody on the field as a quarterback. Kirk Cousins yesterday was a better quarterback. But I still pick on the Vikings to win the division. I mean, at 2 touchdowns, no picks. Didn't Rodgers have an interception? Harrison Smith picked him up yesterday. Mm-hmm. So, or at least just for week 1, Cousins was the better quarterback.
Speaking of missing their receiver, the Kansas City Chiefs played their first game without Tyreek Hill, Pat Mahomes at the helm in Arizona, and missing another receiver was the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins, of course, was suspended, I believe, the first 6 games for PED. That wasn't going to matter anyway, if he was in the game or not. Kansas City, foot to the pedal all game long offensively. They end up winning 44-21, did the Chiefs. It was their game from the start, to be honest. Pat Mahomes, 360 yards passing, 30 for 39, just amazing, of course. 5 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. It was just right where they left off from the last couple of years. On the other side of things, Kyler Murray, 193 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 sacks. He was relieved by McSorley, the former Penn State quarterback, late in the game. He got sacked once as well. Rushing wise, Pacheco had a touchdown for Kansas City. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 42 yards on the ground. Kyler Murray had 5 rushes for 29 yards. Connor did score a touchdown, but nothing much from the ground for Arizona. Now the receptions, I should say, for Kansas City. The bread and butter, of course, was Travis Kelce, 8 receptions with 121 yards, 1 touchdown. And then out of the backfield, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 touchdowns receiving. And then the 2 new receivers to replace Hill. Juju Smith-Schuster, 6 receptions, 79 yards. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the former Packer, had 4 receptions for 44 yards. Later on, Hardman and Fortson also caught a touchdown as well. For the Cardinals, not much. Zach Ertz did catch a touchdown, and then Hollywood Brown also had a touchdown as well. AJ Green did have a couple of receptions, but you could kind of tell where they missed Christian Kirk was in this game. So you had a bunch of missed receivers elsewhere, but the results were probably going to be the same, honestly. This kind of shows you where these 2 teams are. The Chiefs still at the top, the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. In my opinion, just my opinion, it feels like he's tearing that franchise down by himself. I don't know about you. That's what I feel like. So what did you think about this decisive Chiefs win in Arizona?
We'll say thank you for granting True Crime. I don't know who that, but we appreciate you tuning in for the Icing programs for the first time. And you're right, Vikings will blow games. But I think taking advantage of what the Bears, they don't have receivers, Packers in their drama. I think early on, if the Vikings can take advantage of that, you just never know. Speaking of homework, James, Kyler Murray needs to do more homework.
4 hours, young man.
No Instagram, Call of Duty season, baby.
No Fortnite.
But I think you're 100% right. But I think here's the thing. I knew, because we know you can just see talent when you see talent. Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal. They weren't going to miss Tyreek Hill. I think it was a great luxury in some games. Maybe, I wish we had him. But overall, you still have, I know you work receivers after the season. You still have Travis Kelce. You still have Mikael Hartman. You still have a lot of other receivers. You have that rookie defender on defense who is going to be a really special player. And that was been one of the biggest flaks for the Kansas City Chiefs. Is their defense couldn't cover everyone if the football was thrown into their hands. So I think that's especially important for Kansas City. Arizona got embarrassed at home. And just, I'll let my good friend just react to this. The Cardinals had to pay Kyler Murray. But I think you're right. Number one, Kyler Murray is not a leader for this team on or off the field. Mm-hmm. You had 3 to 4 games ahead of the Rams for the division. You lost against them in the wild card. They won the Super Bowl. And, of course, this past week they lost against the Bills on Thursday Night Football. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get it. But, like, there's no excuse for the Cardinals. 2020, you had Christian Kirk. 2020, you had DeAndre Hopkins. And they started off the year 6-2. Finished off the year 2-6. That's an 8-8 overall record. 2021. Again, DeAndre Hopkins was hurt, but you still had some weapons. Okay, we may disagree. Fine. This game, you were almost down by 30 points in your own stadium. I predicted them to miss the playoffs. And so far, I don't think that's a far out prediction. Because I think when you look at that division, we already knew Matthew Stafford was the better quarterback when he first got traded. We knew that already. Like, Kyler Murray is not a top 10 or top 12 quarterback. He's a guy that maybe has the potential, but yet again, you're seeing Kyler Murray, who is not a consistent quarterback. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. I get you had to pay because you haven't had a quarterback since Kurt Warner. I get it. But I just want to see how many playoff wins the Cardinals have. Oh, that's right. 0. So this year is going to have to be a big must for the Cardinals. And if you couldn't beat Kansas City, how are you supposed to beat LA? And if you can't beat LA, how are you supposed to beat San Francisco? If you can't do 2 of the 3 of those, you're missing the playoffs. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But the last part for Kansas City, though, like, they didn't miss Tyreek Hill. I think he's a phenomenal player, but I think when you have the right head coach, you have the right pieces around you, and they're going to be running the football a lot more this season with Crider or Taylor, with your backup running back, and with Patrick Mahomes getting some carries here and there. I think the Chiefs will be definitely just fine, but I definitely have to see. I think what Grinding True Crime had to say. Grinding True Crime. I just want to make sure I said that right. But they had a comment to say here.
I agree with that.
Yeah, getting rid of Hill not going to hurt them. Also get rid of Mahomes' brother was in addition.
Him and Juice are going to do those TikToks together and hopefully break down the season. But for now, they're doing so well. Absolutely,
for sure, man. But this last comment, I think pretty much saw the
Rams ball. He says the Rams division. By the way, that's my man Todd. He says the Rams division again because the Niners chose the wrong quarterback. Murray, he agrees, is not a leader, and his Seahawks, who play tonight, does not have a choice at quarterback, or they have a choice, but they rather have another choice. It seems like the NFC West not as strong as the last couple of years. That's with quarterbacks leaving. That's with the bad play. It's definitely a shift of what it used to be from the last couple of years. That's all I can really say about that. Speaking of the West, but the AFC West, the lone matchup, opening day at the greenhouse, as I would call SoFi Stadium. That's how hot it felt at the game yesterday in LA with my Raiders and the Chargers. And I'll go off on this, but they were down 17-3 were the Raiders. They made a little comeback, but it fell short. It was one of those games where I felt like Derek Carr with his 3 interceptions. It makes it how he is. It makes it the way that the fan base is, divided on him. He can have his good runs and he can have his bad games. And we saw one of his bad games, but he did put up some numbers. Chargers, their main thing, bringing in Khalil Mack from the Bears via trade, he made an impact that whole game. I think he had 3 sacks. He let Joey Bosa get free, Sebastian Joseph Day on the line. It just looked like it was a party for the defensive line and the linebackers for the Chargers yesterday. The Raiders just seemed really one-dimensional. Josh Jacobs looked good on some runs, but Devontae Adams was getting a lot of looks, a lot of receptions as well. But the thing was too much, and it led to some picks. They didn't go to Renfro, Waller enough. That's what it seemed like with the Raiders. But yeah, it was hot as hell in there. I couldn't believe it. And the reason that I lost my voice, yelling there,
Yeah.
week one, it was just a fun environment. And it wasn't as, rated out as I thought it was going to be. I heard 80-20, whatever the case was percent-wise. But it seemed like 60-40 Raider fans. But anyway, Derek Carr, 295 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. It's that thing where he stays in the pocket too long. He could have ran for some first downs. I had a great view of it all, too, of the misery. He just stayed in the pocket the whole time. He just stayed in the pocket too damn long. And there were things he could have made happen with his feet. But he just got jittery like he's always been with the ball. And there's so many times it got stripped out and luckily recovered, sometimes by the Raiders, but sometimes by the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 279 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and no sacks. Max Crosby, say whatever you want about him. He wasn't getting doubled too often, and I was hoping that would free up someone else to get in there and sack Herbert. But that wasn't the case. Chandler Jones only had a couple tackles, but no sacks. You were hoping, just like Bosa and Mack on both sides of the line, that Jones and Crosby were going to do their thing on the defensive line. But that was not the case whatsoever. I'm kind of worried about that Chandler Jones signing I was in the beginning. Remember last year, John, Chandler Jones, he had a 5-sack first game on opening day in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. He was good pretty much the first 5 weeks, and he kind of disappeared in that season last year with the Cardinals. Jacobs on the ground again, 57 yards, no touchdowns. Austin Eckler, 36 yards rushing. Not much on the ground. This was an air game. Devontae Adams, his first game with the Raiders, 10 receptions, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. The backup running back, Bolden, had 1 touchdown. Renfro only had 3 receptions for 21. Waller, 4 for 79. That will not get it done. I think Carr was too focused on getting Adams the ball. Granted, he did well, and that was a spotlight for the Raiders. But too many times, a double would come over and deflect a pass or a pick would happen. For the Chargers, Keenan Allen did leave the game. He had 66 yards receiving. But Devontae Carter, the first-year Charger, had a touchdown. And then Gerald Everett, the former NFC West tight end, had a touchdown with the Chargers. Fullback had a touchdown as well. Horvat with the Chargers as well. But it was just a game where the Raiders came up short. Great atmosphere, but it's one of those games where you hope it doesn't linger with the offensive line problems that they've had. Again, when you lose your right tackle, you have to switch the left tackle over. You have all these young guys on the offensive line. You're putting your money to other places, mainly Waller, who just signed an extension a couple of days ago, and then Adams and Carr. Well, that doesn't leave enough money up if you want to get a great offensive line, and that's what's killing the Raiders. So what did you think about that game in LA?
I think that, to your point, that's part of the reason why Derek Carr was staying in the pocket, because they're so over-reliant on where's Devontae Adams. Where's Devontae Adams when at the same time you have Hunter Renfro, you have Josh Jacobs, and hopefully my voice doesn't go out in the next couple of sentences. You have those weapons. You have good players on defense. So I don't understand, you be able to spread the ball around. That's one of many reasons why the Cowboys lost, the Cardinals lost, some of the other teams lost, because you're so focused on those 1 or 2 players. The Rams are so focused on getting to Cooper Kupp that they didn't give a lot to Robinson. They didn't focus on Akers a lot. They didn't focus on these other players. I think that was one of the reasons for the Raiders, along with your offensive line. Yeah, I picked the Raiders, and I just can't mess with the Chargers because, who knows? Whoever's the quarterback there, maybe he'll have 20 kids too. I don't know, but that's just a joke. But I think if you look at the AFC West here, I think your good friend has a good point. But Yeah, man. I think it's tough because the Chargers. I did pick up the win division by 1 or 2 games and had the Raiders coming in there. But I think hopefully this is a lesson for Derek Carr where
Mhm.
yes, you have Adams, but also at the same time, don't spend so much time in the pocket. Where if you look at it with Rodgers and Adams, it wasn't just Rodgers throwing it to Devontae Adams in the pocket. It was him rolling to the left, rolling to the right, looking downfield, getting out of the pocket, out of the pressure, and throwing it. Carr is capable of doing that to a certain extent. So hopefully they can do that.
Looks
Get
like
the
we
running
lost.
game going. Do apologize. I think I'm having some technical difficulties, but I mean that's the point. There, you got
There
to
you
be
are.
able to. Sorry about that. We're able to spread the ball around. And what were you saying, James?
Oh no, I was commenting. Hey, we lost feed for a second, but we're good.
We are good, but I think the Raiders will be fine. But again, don't be so over reliant and stay in the pocket to find Adams because you could find Devontae Adams out of the pocket when you're spreading around. He's not open. Okay, you've got Hunter Renfrow, you've got Waller, you have Jacobs, you have is it Kenny Drake? No, Kenny Drake's with is it Kenny Drake? What's his name?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay, so I think
Bolden is the new backup for the
Bolden.
Raiders.
Okay,
Running
so
back. Yeah.
you have the weapons. It's possible. I did feel that he's overthinking it, but we'll just have to see in this upcoming next couple games.
By the way, Granite True Crime mentions Pete Carroll has a tremendous ego and a great hand clapping game and fist pumping game. I don't know if you'll see that tonight. I don't know how we'll break that game down, but also he mentions AFC West best division in football. I think a lot of us has said any of those matchups between those 4 games can be prime time.
Exactly. I think what we were saying the same thing about the NFC West last year, but yet it never went into fruition. But we're saying the same about the AFC West, but it's actually going to happen. 2 quarterbacks have appeared in 2 Super Bowls. 2 quarterbacks are Super Bowl champions in that division.
A lot of hardware in that division. Grinding Crew Trime also mentions great show, by the way, nice flow and chemistry. We try that. And check out his content as well. It's mostly about true crime, of course, if you're into that sort of thing, murder and whatever else, mystery. And then he also mentions who's winning the Battle of LA of the collection of the new fans in the LA market, in our opinion. Okay, since I was there yesterday, it still feels like, a Raider town, but you also have the Cowboys, the 49er fans that come in and take over the stadium. Probably more so the 49ers at a Ram game, and then whenever the Cowboys show up anytime. But yesterday, John, and Grinding True Crimes, everybody tune in. I couldn't believe at the amount of Steeler fans I saw. I couldn't believe the Cowboy fans that were there because they played, later Sunday night, which we'll get to. But it seemed like almost every team was represented by jersey yesterday. So the LA market, it's everyone's pretty much. But the majority is who I mentioned. Now, with the Rams winning the Super Bowl, that's going to add a little bit to the market. But you did see the Bills fans on Thursday kind of take over, especially with the way the game was going on Thursday. So you would hope the Rams would take the market. Personally, I don't want the Chargers to take the market because the Raiders should have been there. But, if the Chargers can get going and they have high expectations, of course, the fans are going to come out. So maybe it's a case where they're 50-50 this year, the Rams and Chargers, for that LA market. But just keep in mind, the Raiders come in and play the Rams this year again at SoFi. You'll have the rest of the schedule coming in with the Chiefs playing the Chargers at home there, of course. So it's going to be a real fun year. But to me, it seems like 50-50 just right now, just because of the Rams. And if Stafford is going to struggle, they'll have a Super Bowl hangover, like we mentioned earlier. And maybe the Chargers, with, again, their expectations really high, maybe they'll get the fan support. But that's what I see. What do you think about the LA market and who's going to win that LA battle between the Rams and the Chargers?
I feel like it's the Rams because they were in LA before, I believe, and then they went back to St. Louis. So I think a lot of times we love nostalgia and what's familiar, and we'll give our money to what's familiar, which is why we saw certain movies this past year from Marvel that were really successful because something was very familiar. It's something that's been there before. We've seen it. We've seen the success there a little bit here and there. We've seen them in the video games. They went to St. Louis, and now they're back in LA. I think honestly it'd be the Rams. Now I would rather it be the Chargers because I'm rooting for Herbert. I want him to succeed, but I think overall it's gonna be the Rams because I think not just for the Rams, but like when people talk about Super Bowl hangovers, I think it's kind of BS to a certain extent because like when you look at it, it's about having the right guys. It's not just after you win the Super Bowl you're not going back. It's if your GM is just trading everybody, releasing everybody, you are screwed. The Jaguars nearly made to the Super Bowl, and that offseason in March, they released nearly 50+% of the players. That was Saxonville. Calais Campbell a year or two later went to Baltimore. Guys, Willie Jackson was from Denver, went to Jacksonville, and got traded again. So I just don't see like a Super Bowl hangover there, especially with when I think you potentially what you look at Arizona. They're a dumpster fire in week one. The Niners got a dumpster fire. They had a water slide there. I mean, they let Justin Fields scored 2 wide open pass, 2 touchdowns there. Herbert got 30, 40 yards, and I think you're going to see the running game get especially established there in Chicago. But I think with the Rams, it's not because I'm not sure if your friend is a Chargers fan or not. But
Seahawks.
Seahawks, okay, that's right. Seattle. I don't think it'd be the Chargers because I think with how the Rams are handling their situation with their players and their team, I think they'll be just fine. But to your point about Pete Carroll, I think he does, but also at the same time, you got to remember other 2 things that are going to happen with Seattle Pete Carroll. He's going to get fired after the season, or maybe they have a protected guy that they're interested in getting in the draft. Because, like I say, this is extremely important. Where you have so many great or really good quarterbacks coming out in the draft in 2023, where they can have the excuse, Pete Carroll is going to help rebuild this team and with a new quarterback. That's going to be your guy for 10+ years. So it's either he gets fired or they're having an excuse about him drafting a quarterback and then seeing where that goes. But honestly, I'm so sorry as a Seahawks fan give a quarterback who has terrible taste in rap music with Young Jeezy, and he have a quarterback who all he's known for is getting hit. So you would think he is a WWE fighter at that point.
And he also mentions, hey, we make good points, and I'm sure if you go to Grinding True Crime, he has these great stories. I've been on a couple of his shows, podcasts. And then if you want to see John here on Ice and Across the Galaxy, right, the show about Star Wars and Marvel, check out that as well. Grinding True Crime also mentions, by the way, one more thing on the Rams. If you play a drinking game every time they show Sean McVay, you'd be drunk by the end of the first quarter. And that might be true. I remember that on Thursday night. It seemed like they were showing Sean McVay, and then after a while, Sean McVay wasn't looking too spirited after that Buffalo game. The Sunday night matchup, Tampa Bay and Dallas. I definitely got that wrong. The scoring wasn't there. It was only 19-3. Tampa Bay. It was a real lackluster game, honestly. That's what I saw. Really quick, the stats. Tom Brady had 212 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked twice. But you expect that with that offensive line being just depleted. You don't have the center, the captain, Ryan Jensen. Riffs is gone on the right tackle side. They have to maneuver things around. And that might be a problem going forward, definitely for Tampa Bay when you face, the better teams in the NFC. That might be a big problem. Dak Prescott, 134 yards passing, no touchdown, 1 interception, and 2 sacks. Unfortunately, he was hit on the hand, and we'll check out that injury report later on. Cooper Rush had to come in. He was sacked twice. He didn't throw for anything, touchdown or a pick. Leonard Fournette on the ground. It was great to see him back and running. 21 carries, 127 yards. That was great to see. Ezekiel Elliott, though, like I mentioned this before, it seemed like once he got his contract, he was set. He didn't have to run hard. He didn't have to really show off. He had 10 carries, only 52 yards, And then Tony Pollard, what I mentioned, remember on Thursday, I said, I want to see Pollard go off. I want him to get the ball the majority of the time. He only had 6 carries and 8 yards. Prescott ran for two rushes and 11. I was really, really pissed off about that. Mike Evans showing why maybe he's one of the best in the game. I think because he didn't have Tom Brady, he was kind of overlooked. But with Brady, he's in the spotlight now. He had a touchdown yesterday. Julio Jones made his first game there. 3 receptions with 69 yards. Chris Godwin, who we'll talk about later, 3 receptions with 35 yards there. For Dallas, though, really nothing in the air. Brown had 68 yards receiving, I should say. Schultz had 62. CeeDee Lamb only had 29 on 2 receptions. So, like I said, it was a real lackluster game. And I was totally wrong about that. I said, you know what? I think Brady's going to crumble. Dallas, I think they have it all going for him. This is the year, blah, blah, blah. So, John, what did you think about the Sunday night sleepover that was in AT&T Stadium?
First of all, they have the weirdest rule there at AT&T Stadium. When the kicker kicks the ball and it hits the scoreboard, they replay the snap and with the glide. That's so weird. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I think he's right here. Like, another injury, another season could be in jeopardy. The offense, it was in there. It was lackluster. How will I say this? How about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.? Oh my, Fournette had 100+ yards, and that you're right. With that depleted offensive line, you're gonna have to run the football a lot with Ronald Jones, with Leonard Fournette, with all your John White or whatever his name was, the third running back on the roster for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans has been overlooked. I'm naming two quarterbacks Mike Evans has played with, not counting Jameis Winston, not counting Tom Brady. He played with Josh Freeman and Mike Glennon.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy's been a phenomenal player. I hope true football fans are not just now realizing that. With that being said, though, this just shows that, like, Dallas, man, it's just CeeDee Lamb is getting exposed. He cannot be potentially a number 1 receiver in this league. And I don't get it. You drafted him in the first round. You traded Cooper for a 6th-round pick and a bag of chips and a half-eaten melted bag of Starburst. And you paid your other receiver, who's out for a couple of weeks. This is why we go back to my point with a couple of games ago we talked about, where you shouldn't just have one running back. You cannot pay a guy $80+ million, him be your only guy, and expect to win Super Bowl. So what happens? Like, it happened again, and I wish Dak Prescott nothing but the best. When your quarterback gets hurt 3 years in a row, shoulder injury, ankle, thumb, we'll talk about it in a little bit. Even before, I'll talk about just before that, because we'll talk about the injury just a little bit. Dak Prescott, what in anyone's head green earth are you doing? What kind of throw? You can't throw nearly. You're going to throw pick after pick after pick. Like, some of the throws he made were terrible. I will say, to a certain extent, some of those receivers should not be in the National Football League. You shouldn't be in the Canadian National Football League. You shouldn't be playing Madden on the Xbox or PlayStation or GameCube or anything. But it also just, more importantly, there are questions before the season started, I believe, maybe not with everybody, where can CeeDee Lamb solidify himself to be a true number 1 receiver for the Dallas Cowboys? There is no question about that with Justin Jefferson. There was no question about that with Mike Evans. There was no question about that with Julio Jones in Atlanta. There was no, or at least at first, with Odell in New York for a few seasons there. There was no question about many other receivers in the National Football League. There was no question about Jamar Chase. There was no question about DK Metcalf. There's no question about Tyler Lockett. There's no question about Devontae Adams and Green Bay. I may continue on. Baloney hole back to the Cowboys. There's a question. Can CeeDee Lamb be that number one guy if Dak is healthy? And so far what we're seeing is no. CeeDee Lamb cannot be a number one guy. He's a great guy on the slide. You go a little bit left, you to the right. He's a guy to pick off another receiver playing really well or getting a few catches here and there, like a Amari Cooper or Cedric Wilson, who's out for a couple of weeks. But no, they're gone. Or at least one's injured, one's gone in Cleveland, who won yesterday against Carolina. He's getting exposed. You drafted him in the first round, top 15 to 20 overall, and he can't even be a number one receiver? Like, are you kidding me? At least through the first week, you got to be kidding me. You're playing against Tampa Bay. At least in their division, it's the Super Bowl contender, hands down. With that being said, are you kidding me? Like, if you can't beat Tampa Bay in their defense, with how through the second half it was very lackluster, I'll give for both sides. Then how are you going to be? Let's see I'll pick one. Well, we'll do this like we did with the other football team. Pick one tough opponent that they have and see. If they can't beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's see who the Cowboys play. All right, they play my Bengals. Oh, crap. That's a win for the Bengals. Thank you for that. All right, if you can't beat the Buccaneers in week 1, how are you going to beat the Rams on October 9th? How are you going to beat that's your toughest opponent this year is the Rams. Like, you have pretty much almost an easy division here there because, toughest opponent is the Rams. That's October 9th. For this city, you have Eagles, Lions, Chicago, and all those other teams. So if you can't beat Tampa Bay in week 1, before the Prescott injury, how are you going to beat them moving forward if Dak Prescott wasn't hurt at all? He's a complete embarrassment. Zeke is overrated. He said he's back. Week 1, really, Zeke, you're back? What timeline? In 2050? In 2062? You're overrated. They shouldn't have paid you. It's not just Zeke I'm talking about. Like, I'm not here to nitpick. I'm just Zeke. That's just when you overpay at the running back position. In this day and age, and for a very long time, you will not win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. That's just a fact. That's not an opinion. Look at the past, let's say 22 years. When you look at, New England won in 01. Who won 02? Tampa Bay, the 02, 03. You had your defense, core records, okay. And then you have New England again. New England won back-to-back. And then you have the Eagles, who appeared in multiple Super Bowls. You had a good running back, Ryan Westbrook, but you also had a really good defense. You also had a quarterback who wasn't necessarily the greatest passer, but he can make some throws when he really needed to. And then you go to 2011, Rodgers on that team. Eddie Lacy wasn't there till a year or two after. You look at the Panthers when they appeared in that Super Bowl, or the Broncos with Peyton Manning when they appeared in that Super Bowl. They had an okay running game, C.J. Anderson, but he wasn't overpaid. He wasn't getting 350-plus carries, and they still got to the Super Bowl because if they overpaid him, I'm not talking about not paying running backs. I'm talking about breaking the bank. But I think for the Cowboys here, it's tough, man, because even before the Dak injury, you look like a team that, frankly, is a complete embarrassment. Washington right now, think about it. Washington won against Jacksonville. Giants won. Dallas lost. I feel like I'm blanking on the last team. The Eagles won. Mm-hmm. So right now, before the Dak Prescott injury, they were the worst team in the NFC East, especially now with Cooper Rush, who, mind you, I'm talking about Cooper Rush, was on the practice squad. Like, this is defensive-wise, too. Diggs, I admit, he has some good plays, or Michael Parsons had some good sacks. He played really well. I think he's a phenomenal player. Outside of Parsons, like, you paid to Marcus Lawrence. I think he fled to Mexico because he stopped playing really good at his position. So I don't understand. And so when you overpay the running back, you expect a lot out of them, and then you use them so much to the point where their health is going to be affected. You see them with McCaffrey. A little bit you're going to see that with Ezekiel Elliott. And this is what your friend right here is pretty much exactly saying. Unless you're Henry or healthy Barkley, I don't agree on the top dollar backs. I agree because I think maybe you can contest because you've obviously watched it a little longer than I have. When you look at the running back position, like, is it as valuable really in terms of big contracts or whatever as it was 20 to 25 years ago?
I think the thing now, and a lot of teams have gone analytical about this. They say, hey, like another profession, you say, hey, you get running backs cheap and as young as possible. And you have a plethora of those guys, and that's the way to go. You got to have the running back commit to the team and realize their place. Now, you're going to have the players union, you're going to have the agents say, hey, no, you hold out and get what you want. Now, I'm always thinking of 30 years ago with Emmitt Smith, how he held out. I think it was 93. He held out the first game or first couple of games. Cowboys lost. Everybody panicked. And then they paid Emmitt Smith. Well, that's Emmitt Smith. So you pay the really great guys. And I know it's hard to – well, it's not hard. It's not hard for us fans to realize who's the better running backs. Like he mentioned, Henry, Barkley. You pay those guys. But when you have Elliott, where it seemingly looked like he was going to be great, you take that risk sometimes when you can afford it. Now, other teams don't have the luxury to do that. Okay, with my Raiders, right, Josh Jacobs, this will be his 5th and final year on his deal. I don't see them bringing him back and paying him like he wants to be just because he's been injured. So I think every situation is different, but I think you take examples from the past and then you really make a decision just based on how your team is and what your cap is, basically. And then, and then the future projections, and you go by that. Mm-hmm. And you hope you don't miss. It's like having a draft pick in like baseball, football, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. It's just like that, but with someone who's supposedly established. So it's kind of like a crapshoot with running backs. And then once their contract is up, you have to make a fatal decision that either kills your team, like we're seeing with the Cowboys, or if your team is a one-trick pony, like the Giants or the Titans, well, you have to keep your guy. So I think it all depends on who you put around your running back in your offense, and then you go from there. But there's not a lot of examples where this has worked out, where you sign someone back as a running back and you sign them to a big deal like you always mention, and you're always right about that. Mm-hmm. It's just a crapshoot.
When you're so over-reliant on your running back, Tennessee's a perfect example. Even the year Ryan Tannehill had a good year, they lost against Kansas City. Once he was picked off by Honey Badger in that playoff game in 2020, you're pretty much screwed at that point. Like if your bread and butter is your running back on your offense, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. It is a pass-friendly league. When you're so over-reliant, like Christian McCaffrey is not great. He is not elite. I'm sorry that because partly on the Panthers, because when you overuse a guy, you can't see his full potential or his full extended potential of what he could be. Because if they didn't overuse him, maybe I wouldn't have to make this take. I'm sorry. I think he's really, really good, but he's not really, really great or really, really elite. I'm looking at it right now. His stats pretty much overall, he's not really a great – I mean, he's really good, but not great. The last 2 years, he has at least last year, 99 carries. 2020, 59 carries. Because they overuse Christian McCaffrey, you're going to destroy and ruin his career. This is why when you draft a running backs with an S, then they draft him in the later rounds. That's why the Patriots had their run for 19 years. Because they weren't overpaying for a running back. Corey Dillon, they traded for it. They didn't overpay him. Randy Moss, they traded for him. 2 years went to a Super Bowl with 18-1. Like in 2020 and 2021 combined, Let me look at 99 plus 59 because make sure I do this right. 2019 and 2020 combined, he had 158 carries total. Averaging that out, that's only 79 carries a season from 2019 to 2020 combined. Because you overuse the running back. So I get it's about business, but you can't tell me with a straight face that the running back position is a top 3 most important thing for your team. It's not. It's simply not. I say running back. Christian McCaffrey, Jared Cameron, I think he's a really great player right now. He's a potential future first Hall of Famer. I'm not debating that part with some of these guys. But when you overuse them and you wonder, I wonder why we can't address other things because you broke the bank for a running back. It just simply doesn't work.
I'm going to read some more comments from Grinding True Crime. He mentions Zeke right here. He says, Zeke wasn't wearing his crop top, so that's why he was not in peak performance. God,
that reminds me of that scene from the Adam Sandler movie. Go, go, go.
Longest yard. And then he mentions, I agree, paying running backs don't work anymore. It's a passing league. And yeah, that's what we were unfortunately talking about. Just the league has changed. There's no more, the game is in the dirt. It's all in the air now, basically. He mentioned about Henry and Barkley, unless you're those guys, you don't get paid. And then, they have a shelf life in the NFL, maybe 4 or 5 years with the running backs. Chris Carson, the former Seahawk running back who fumbled a lot, he retired over a neck injury, which was unfortunate to hear. He thinks you keep it 100, John, and you always do. And he says definitely the Raiders are going to be in the market for another running back, and same with McCaffrey. The Raiders will have to go in the bargain bin to try to find a running back since their money is tied up with others. He also mentions, the Patriots seem to have a new running back every year for every Super Bowl run. Most valued position on a team, or at least at bit, should be. Most teams that have won have a trio or at least a tandem like Cleveland or Kansas City. And you saw that kind of yesterday. Chubb did the groundwork mostly, but you have Kareem Hunt that goes in there and did well as well. That was weird. But Kansas City, they're going to have their thing. It'd be interesting to see other teams like the Chargers, for instance. They've gone with a new style where they keep Eckler, but he's mostly a back-catching running back. But they do everything in the air. So if you go with a new template of how to play and how to run your offense, you go in the air. And that's how you supposedly succeed. I mean, you can say same thing with the Rams as well.
That's why I say, like you said before I continue on, is that when you have a shelf life of 4 or 5 years, why are you overusing a guy? And you gave into Zeke's demands and pressures. We were told as kids in the DARE program, don't give in to peer pressure. But what did the Dallas Cowboys do? They give into peer. This is exactly what the Cowboys did. They pretty much just screwed everything. I told you, paying Zeke was a mistake, and this is pretty much what's happening to them and pretty much their season. You're going to screw it up. You're going to crap the bed. You're going to wet the bed, and you overpay Zeke in 2020, and now you are pretty much screwed. And this is Jerry Jones right now. But yeah,
that is disturbing.
Yeah.
So, our game picks. We're going to keep track, again, the $50 gift card or money, however we're going to take it. I'll take anything.
It's going to be a Visa gift card, so we can use it for anything. So
risk it for the biscuit, that's for sure. So, the way the picks went before the Monday night game, I went 9-5-1. You are 8-6-1. So it all depends on tonight. But guess what? We both picked Denver.
So we're good. Oh God! I swear, if this is going to be a tie, let me say this, folks. If it's a tie at the end of the season, we'll both give ourselves each a $50 gift card, just for it to be fair. If it is a tie.
So I lead just by one game. But we both picked
Corruption.
Denver.
It's corruption. It's conversion. You destroyed the football things. I can't believe you.
I have my seventh grade math to try to get me through that earlier today. Now the unfortunate part about football, the injuries, of course, right? Dak Prescott, he'll need to undergo surgery on his throwing hand after it was hit after a throw. I've had that, and John, I mentioned yesterday, it was right here. I threw a pass and somebody hit there, and that will go off. Now it's all up here's where the injury is, and it's really unfortunate. Jerry Jones talked to reporters, of course, like he always does. He's going to miss multiple weeks. Will Prescott, your thoughts on that huge injury? I know it says multiple weeks, but do you think it'll be a couple months?
This is tough because I know we were basically saying, "Oh, how about the Cowboys?" And I'll continue to say that if Dak Prescott was there, dude, this is like I feel like because we joke a lot and we basically are just. But seriously, like the Cowboys cannot catch a break. The fans, like 2020, you had the shoulder injury that ended your season right there. We saw that there. 2021, you had your ankle injury. We saw that there. 2022, you have your thumb injury. And when you have your shoulder, when you have your thumb and your ankle, like I think, because like you said, like when you're throwing the football as a quarterback, you could have all of your four fingers grip on that football, but that thumb is going to be that direction to where that football is going to go. Because if you just don't have your thumb, you're going to have it's just going to go wherever. It's like in bowling. Whenever your hand goes like this, if your hand goes like to the left, the ball's going to go to the left. Same thing at the quarterback position. So I really feel bad for not necessarily just the Cowboys fans and the team in general, because you had high hopes this year. You took advantage of the Giants are rebuilding a little bit. Brian Kerrigan's a part of that team, but not on the field. Chase Young is out. Who knows what happens with Carson Wentz? So you can take advantage of that with potentially Dak Prescott to be healthy this season. But I think we're seeing what Dak Prescott is, and what he is a Kirk Cousins, but injury prone. And I think at this point in his, like, in terms of the narrative, he's not a winner. He's not going to get to the Super Bowl. With that being said, though, I wish him nothing but the best. It's just tough now because this division, you're seeing 2020 for the Cowboys in 2022. Right? Dak Prescott's out for a very long time. Ezekiel Elliott's under his big fat contract, which is bigger than the amount of queso I eat during the Super Bowl party, which is a lot because queso's really good. And then you have Washington. Then you have the Giants. And so, like your friends sit here, I think this is the Eagles' division to lose. Jalen Hurts is healthy. You have your offensive line. But also for the Cowboys, one of your rookie offensive linemen, he's injured. And even beforehand, before the game started the season, you had your star offensive lineman who's out till December. And you have a rookie, Connor, something I can't remember his name at the moment, who is out for a couple of games. Then you have your other defensive player that's going to be out for a couple of games. So, honestly, I know we joke, but I think your friend has a point here. Eagles division to lose. I don't see the Giants doing better. I mean, it's the Giants. I mean, their head coach, when he got fired, he had a pizza party at his house, so I don't know what that was about. You don't believe in their quarterback. I'm assuming for the Giants. Washington, woke, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Honestly, I think for Washington, it's a make it or break it year. I think they're one of the few teams in the league where it's a make it or break it year for the quarterback and for the head coach and for the defensive coordinator, because it's defense, while Chase Young is out, while Kerrigan is out, how are you going to adjust your tempo with a 3-4 to 4-3? Are you going to go more zone or cover? Like, what are you going to do? There's a lot of adjustments. But for the Cowboys, I'm not trying to be like, oh my gosh, it's only week one and all these other stuff. But, James, do you think their season is over at this point pretty much?
I think it depends how long Prescott is out, and then Cedric Wilson, how long he'll be out for. But I don't think it's over yet. But I think a lot of people came in and thought maybe this is the year the Eagles take over just because of the moves they made. Seemingly better moves than the Cowboys did. I wasn't one of those people. I drank the Kool-Aid of the Dallas Cowboys, and
So did I.
I'm wrong right away. So, yeah, I think now, just like Grinding mentioned, hey, Cowboys, Eagles division to win, no doubt about it. There were a few other injuries to mention, and some unfortunate. The Ravens veteran offensive tackle Jawan James tore his ACL. Chris Godwin is out a few weeks with a minor hamstring injury. If you recall, he tore his ACL back in January. Eli Mitchell is out a couple of weeks there. Kyle Fuller tore his ACL. Whom else? Yes. T. Higgins had a concussion with Cincinnati. Let's see. Harrison Butker got hurt, the kicker for the Chiefs, with an ankle injury, and that's unfortunate. The Raiders, I saw this. Anthony Everett, Trayvon Morig, running back Brandon Bolden, who we talked about earlier. Denzel Perryman, I saw they all left the game. Perryman was like hopping off the field. Keenan Allen was ruled out of the game after the first half for the Chargers. Let's see. Mac Jones suffered a back injury. X-rays were negative. He'll be questionable probably during the week. You know how Belichick, he puts out his injury report and everybody's everybody's questionable. I think maybe the worst injury other from Prescott was definitely TJ Watt. Mm-hmm. He suffered a pectoral injury in the second half of that game. I think he's going to have an opinion about it if he's going to get that looked at. Najee Harris injured his foot. It might be a torn pec for Watt, and that could be really bad for the defense. The thing is, the Steelers, they still have Hayward, Fitzpatrick, so it might not hurt as much as Prescott out with the Cowboys. And that was the main injuries to the main guys. So out of that list, other from Prescott, is there one injury that stood out from week one?
To me, it's T.J. Watt, because I understand to get Hayward and Fitzpatrick, all those guys, but what T.J. Watt did really well is getting to the quarterback's face, getting pressuring the guys, getting those key sacks later in the game. And you saw that last year. I think their toughest opponent now would be Tampa Bay on October 16th of next month. And so I think when you look at this, if he is injured, they have a hard chance of they already have a worse defense than Tampa Bay if T.J. Watt is out. Because I think when you look at it, he's like Khalil Mack, but better, like when he was younger, in terms of even if it doesn't show up in the numbers week by week, his impact, like Von Miller with the Bills on and off the field, is 100% impactful. And so I think with games coming up with the Patriots and the Browns and Jets, if you can't win 2 out of 3 like that, like you got Kenny Pickett, who's obviously a rookie, who's in the same practice facility, but how long are you keep Mitchell Trubisky as a starter? Because if you, I say this for teams, if you have the option of having your young quarterback learn from a veteran, experience. I didn't say it was good. Experience is experience, whether it's good or bad. Fitzpatrick is a perfect example with Winston and Tua and so many guys over the years. Experience. And he has that opportunity with Trubisky. He's not like the oldest veteran in the league, obviously, or like what's his name with Miami coming back at age 40. But honestly, it's tough. I really think that's going to make it a breakthrough season. I can't think of Craig Hayward and Fitzpatrick. What about in the interior defensive line? What about guys that can get to the quarterback real quick? Because I think when you play the Bengals again this season, and you know you have issues with the Bengals offensive line, how are you going to attack that? Whether Cam Hayward's focusing on the back of the defensive front line, when you have a Tyler Boyd or Chase going up the middle or to the right doing a cut, and then you have Joe Mixon, which ways are you going to cover? Because if you got Fitzpatrick and Cam Hayward, what if Cam Hayward's more focused on Chase or Tyler Boyd, but then you still have Mixon, you still have these other players, you still have Joe Burrow. So I think that's where TJ Watt would meet the Steelers in the middle, where you have Cam Hayward and Fitzpatrick focus on these other players. You still have the middle guy, which is TJ Watt, that's able to go out the middle, cut to the left or to the right, and get that key play. But outside of Prescott, it's going to have to be TJ Watt because now Lamar Jackson, the Ravens won, the Steelers won, Browns lost, the Bengals lost. You want to say week by week. This is not like the AC West, it's tough, not because it's a great division, but because there's a lot of potential. Maybe there's drama at the Kardashian division this year, and along with injuries in the Kardashian division, I think that's going to be tough because without TJ Watt, you can't have Cam Hayward being in his position. You have to get Cam Hayward be that right defensive end. So who's going to cover for TJ Watt during that time?
By the way, Grinding True Kimes has a couple more comments. Gotta roll, guys. Keep it up. You guys rock. You should stream to YouTube and Twitch, and we do here. Way better than the 4-letter network, and I mean that.
We appreciate it, though, because I think
you.
a lot of times when we do this, it was just an idea. We built a box of scraps like Tony Stark did with his suit. So, we definitely appreciate man for tuning in.
And he says, definitely let me know when you guys are on next time. So every Thursday and Monday, 1 p.m. West Coast time out here, 3 where John is.
3 Central, 1 West Coast.
That's right. What was it? Quickly, the Monday night game in, a couple of hours from now. More football for us. Maybe not a good game, but a great storyline. Russell Wilson being traded to the Denver Broncos from the Seattle Seahawks. These two face each other back in Seattle. It's going to be an interesting affair. The injuries, not many well-known guys are out. So other from Tim Patrick, that's going to be a big loss for Denver going forward. We'll see how they spread the ball around with Russell Wilson. He's going to let it fly. He'll have an offensive line I think he hasn't had for a couple of years to finally not let him get chased around like he did with Seattle. I think he's going to enjoy all of this process. You know how he already loves being in the spotlight, being on camera, being a leader.
Broncos country, let's ride. So cringe, man. So cringe.
I've heard that all week long. Oh God, please, no. Yeah, so with that storyline with Russell Wilson coming back to face Grinding's Seahawks here, and the Seahawks getting Noah Fant and Drew Lock on the sideline, of course. Geno Smith starting tonight, I should say. I see this game. We'll do a score, we'll do prediction. I think Denver will definitely win this game. I hope it's not a blowout. I hope it's respectable. My guess, it'd probably be Denver, 30-14 over Seattle. I just think Denver defensively is really good. You got Bradley Chubb, PS2, Patrick Surtain, the second. Those guys are going to be awesome. Offensively, you have great wide receivers with Sutton. The running game is really good, unknown as well, but Russell Wilson's going to be the main factor with Seattle. I know they're going to try to air it out with Geno Smith, but he's going to get rushed. He's going to get sacked. The main thing I think to watch out for is how quickly frustrated DK Metcalf gets on the sideline when things aren't going his way and when the ball isn't going his way. When he doesn't get his looks, he starts to act out. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But I think it's going to be 30-14 Denver tonight. What do you think about the Monday night game tonight?
I think it's tough because I advocated for DK Metcalf to get paid. I think to a certain extent, rightfully so. But now, even if you have a potentially better receiving core than Denver, you don't have a quarterback. You don't have your best player outside of DK Metcalf is Jamal Adams. good player, but that trade the past couple of years now it's 2020 actually it's looking really really dumb. So they're the Jets. Seattle, they're rebuilding here. They don't have a quarterback who likes young Jeezy, which again for rap, come on. But I think it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be fun for Russell Wilson, and I think that if I'm him, which obviously I know he won't do this, but they just trolled him just a little bit. Like be like a screw you. Like look what your organization did. Look what Snyder. Look what Carroll didn't do. And now they have Seattle. Yeah, they drafted another running back because guess what? Rashard Penny's been a bust for the past couple of seasons, but nobody wants to talk about it that I've heard in the media. Rashard Penny's a bust, and so you draft Kenneth Walker. So maybe there's a duo there, but again, you don't have a quarterback. They'll be lucky to score 2 touchdowns. I just don't see how, even with if your running game gets going, what does Geno Smith have? The Giants replaced Eli Manning with Geno Smith for 1 game. And Eli Manning was already at the end of his career. And look what happened there. So I don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. But again, obviously, we both pick. I'm not going to be stupid and pick Seattle. It's going to be the Denver Broncos by over 15 points.
That's what I think. Yeah. Trying to think. Anything else? I think we covered everything, but it's been a great show. Is there anything else, John? Was there any other topics? I'm like blanking right now.
That's good. I will have my second. I just saw this earlier with Steve, and I'm keeping you accountable. He's saying, what is it? Something about week by week between him and Quentin Ewers, and I'm like, dude, you won't name your starter. He's gonna be out for a couple weeks. Please, for the love that is all is green earth, do not rush at all him coming back. I think the Bengals will be fine. I think with the injury to T.J. Watt, that could be unfortunate, but I think at the end of the day, I still have to say before the Dak Prescott injury. How about them Cowboys? You can never in 22 years, ever. And again, it's all good and fun. No one should ever be doubting Tom Brady ever in his career. Ever. Again and again. Again, that doesn't mean he's going to lose games like everyone else. It's called playing quarterback. But that was a very boring game there. But tough week for football, I think, James, for both of us. But we thank, obviously, for your friend Jordan Amber, Grinding True Crime. Feel free to check him out on Twitter. We do go live Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. West Coast. But I think James has something to say.
What's the chances Jimmy G gets traded to Dallas? I forgot about that one thing. I think right now I'm about 40%. I'm thinking they're going to panic. They saw Cooper Rush. They're like, no, I don't think he's the guy. What are the chances you think Jimmy G goes to Dallas this week?
I think there's a 25% chance or under 25%. Like, I think because the Cowboys, think about it. There's a reason why Cooper Rush was on the practice squad. There's a reason why he got into the practice squad and signed a nearly $1 million contract. I think it'd be a really good choice for the Cowboys because the Niners were great for the Niners too. They would add more money back to the cap. They would be saving money, but at the same time, it's like you still don't see the development of Trey Lance. So if you're the Niners, you know you're not going to get a lot for Jimmy G. You know Trey Lance is not ready yet, so it's tough. For Dallas, it's a 1-1. For San Francisco, it's kind of up in the air because you don't know what's going to happen with Trey Lance. But I think that's a really interesting point there. Jimmy G going to Dallas, I think would be great because Jerry Jones. I'm not saying that getting Jimmy G like your season's going to be completely safe, but it gives you a much better chance while Dak Prescott's out because at least he's a game manager. Where back in the day, Jerry Jones had the guts to make those trades that were like, seriously, that doesn't make any sense. The Dallas Cowboys fans deserve the old Jerry Jones back.
I just had to put that in there. I was thinking, like, wasn't there something else? And, like, maybe throw a little gossip in there. Who knows? It might come up. But I've been wrong before.
Yeah.
I've been wrong one time about the Cowboys.
We've all been wrong about the Cowboys. It's all good.
So hey, it's been a great second episode. Don't forget our third episode on Thursday. We'll preview the Thursday night game and then the rest of the week 2 games. And we will see you then. For John Alcorn, James Gonzalez, we'll see you next time on Punt Off. Now you can punt off now here on Ison.
Punt
Later.
Punt you, and punt all of you. Peace. Because if they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. The Bucs will need a couple of weeks to get where they need to be. Dallas, as a complete team, I think they will be just fine.
What?
By
22 years, you're doubting Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr. What?
I am.
What? What?